am all too familiar with these dramatic real versus fake young master tropes, so the first thing I did upon returning to this wealthy household was to speak plainly to the four sisters who were shielding that fake young master. If you don't want to consider me your biological brother, then I have no desire to acknowledge you as my sisters either. Since in your hearts you only see Mu Xuan as your only brother, then go ahead and let him be your only brother. Keep him if you want, it's up to you. Just don't come bothering me in the future. These words caused the expressions of the four Mu family heiresses to change instantly. Master Mu and Pei Shueru were both angry and frantic. Seeing Pei Shueru's heartbroken look, I sighed softly, "Mom, Dad, don't overthink it. Once I accepted coming back, it means I truly want to acknowledge you both. But it's limited to just the two of you. I don't have the time to please people who are cold to me. I am the noble young lord of Wangzi City. Until now, others have only ever flattered me. There's no way I just endure treatment like this, let alone humble myself to please others. Since I've borrowed Mu Chen's body, I've essentially formed a karmic bond with him. Master Mu and Pei Shueru treat me with sincerity, so naturally I will be a filial son to them, treating them as my own biological parents. As for the others, well, let's just see how they behave." In the silence, a sob suddenly rang out. Everyone at the table instinctively looked in that direction. They saw Mu Xuan with red eyes choking out, "Dad, Mom, sisters, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. Brother, please, whatever you do, don't blame the sisters." Before he could even finish those words, I cut him off bluntly. "Enough. Stop with the sniveling act. Do you think you're performing on a stage? You might like acting, but I don't have time to watch. What exactly do you want? Fine. If it comes to it, I'll just leave and give you all back your happy family." Saying that, I pretended to stand up to leave. Mu Xuan's face turned beet red from my sarcasm, and for a moment, he couldn't utter a single word. "Xiao Chen, what nonsense are you talking? This is your biological family. How can you just say you're leaving like that?" Pei Shueru spoke up quickly. She reached out and gripped my wrist tight, fearing that if I was even slightly upset, I really would leave. "This will always be your home. You can have it however you want. In this house, no one has the right to criticize you." After saying that, she secretly glared at her daughters. It's true what they say about daughters being karmic debts. Master Mu also glared at his daughters. "That's right, you are the master of this house. Anyone who doesn't like it can just get out. From now on, just live however makes you most comfortable. Let's see if anyone dares to have an issue with you." I was quite satisfied with the Mu couple's attitude. At least this couple knows how to see the reality of the situation. If they were also muddled and confused, making their biological son suffer just to defend an adopted one, then my future attitude toward them would have been strictly formal. Mu Xuan felt both ashamed and self-pitying, and was also deeply pained. He wished he could just vanish from this place instantly, but he really didn't have the guts for it. He was no longer the little young master of the Mu family, now merely an adopted son living on their charity. Thinking about this, his heart tightened even more. Pei Shueru looked at Mu Xuan, gently comforting him. "Xiao Xuan, don't cry here anymore. Didn't we already discuss this? Xiao Chen is Xiao Chen, and you are still you. There's no conflict between the two of you. You can rest easy and stay in this house." Mu Xuan continued to snivel. "I just feel so guilty toward my brother. I was about to pick up some food when I stopped. Will you just drop it already? Your mouth keeps running about how guilty you feel, but I don't see you taking the initiative to leave the Mu house. Since you've chosen to stay here, then stop wearing that aggrieved expression all the time. It's honestly nauseating. And another thing, I am not your biological brother, so please, just call me by my name from now on." Of course, I saw right through Mu Xuan's little scheme. Isn't he just acting pitiful and miserable so that everyone feels sorry for him and protects him? These cheap tricks aren't even worth my attention. If he wants to play a part, let him. But if he's given an inch and takes a mile, then don't blame me for not respecting his parents. Mu Xuan's face immediately froze, feeling as if he'd been given a thunderous slap in front of everyone. His face went from pale to flushed, changing constantly. In his heart, his resentment was about to explode. But unfortunately, in front of so many people, he couldn't lash out. Being scolded so bluntly by me in public, if he kept pretending to be aggrieved, it would be far too obvious. Mu Yuwei was the youngest of the four sisters, and usually had the most fiery temper. Seeing this, she was about to speak up and defend Mu Xuan immediately, but was held back firmly by Mu Yuanding sitting next to her. Mu Yuanding looked at me sitting opposite, her eyes filled with curiosity and scrutiny. This brother of hers seemed quite special indeed. Mu Yuanding's gaze wavered slightly. "Welcome back to our family. What Mom and Dad said is absolutely right. From now on, this is your home. Just live however makes you most comfortable. There's no need to worry about anyone else's feelings. What happened today was truly an oversight on our part. We didn't think you and Dad would be back so soon, so we sisters went out to handle some errands. Please don't overthink it. The truth is, we're all very happy to see you return." I just gave her a dismissive glance and didn't bother responding. Seeing his eldest daughter take the initiative to state her stance, Master Mu's expression finally showed a bit of satisfaction. He turned and told the servants to keep bringing out the dishes. They had specially ordered the kitchen to prepare a grand feast today. Every flavor and delicacy was provided, simply because they didn't know what my dietary preferences were. Oh, by the way, Dad, where was Xiao Chen living before? Where are his former relatives now? How should those relationships be handled in the future? It was Mu Yuanding again, appearing as if she'd suddenly remembered something, asking seemingly by chance. After asking, she noticed a slight change in her father's expression. Mu Yuanding felt a small shock in her heart. Dad, why did you suddenly go quiet? Is there something difficult about this? We're all one family now. My brother's business is naturally our business too. You really don't need to keep hiding things from us. It seemed this meal wouldn't be ending peacefully after all. If you want to know, just ask me directly. I picked up a napkin and lightly wiped the corners of my mouth. Since I was young, I was raised by an old Taoist priest, and I've lived in a dilapidated Taoist temple all this time. The temple is located on a desolate, remote mountain, where living conditions are very meager, and hardly anyone ever comes to offer worship. My master and I barely had enough to fill our bellies. So, I've never had a formal education before. Learning to read and write was all taught to me by my master at the temple. From childhood to adulthood, I rarely ever left the mountain. 3 months ago, my master passed away due to old age and weakness. After he left, I lived alone in the temple, until recently, when Dad finally found me and brought me back here to live. I paused for a moment, then added another sentence. That temple is now completely closed down. Anyway, I'm no longer there. Of course, if one day I want to go back, I can still return there and continue my life. I summarized my past in just a few short sentences. My tone remained utterly calm throughout. There was no trace of resentment in my words, nor a single complaint, nor any accusation directed at fate. But Pei Shuiru and Master Mu were overwhelmed with heartbreak after hearing it. The eyes of both husband and wife instinctively welled up with tears. The 4 Mu Yuanding sisters were also stunned, their moods all extremely complex. They never imagined that their biological brother, while they were oblivious, who should have been the noble young master of the Mu family and should have been pampered by the whole family like a precious treasure. Mu Yuwei suddenly felt a pang of conscience, finding her earlier attitude truly excessive. Mu Xuan saw the situation and thought, damn it, he was convinced that I must be a deeply manipulative person, that those words were clearly spoken with intent, purposely playing the victim to win everyone's sympathy. He instinctively wanted to speak up and apologize again, but then remembered my previous attitude and swallowed the words he was about to say. He changed his approach, using what he thought was a clever way of speaking. Xiao Chen, now that you're home, the days ahead will surely be much better. You've just returned to this family, so you're likely still feeling a bit lost. If there's anything you're not used to or don't understand, please feel free to come find me anytime. I will definitely do my absolute best to help you. If you don't mind and would agree to it, I can take you out to look around, so you can quickly get used to the environment here. Oh, that's fine. Thanks. Pei Shuro gripped my hand tightly. She also said similar things, her eyes showing clear, endless pain and regret. Mom, I'm really okay. My master and I were doing just fine before. Even if the living conditions were a bit harsh, the temple was very peaceful and pleasant. Master treated me with so much love. Actually, from childhood until now, I've lived very happily. The words I just spoke weren't actually a lie. The original Mu Chen really had lived quite happily before. Through all those years, although conditions at the temple weren't prosperous, the original Soul's Master always loved and protected him, doing his best to give him the very best he could. Besides, there were rarely many people at the temple, so the relationships around him were very simple and pure. Every day the original soul lived freely and without constraint. When lonely as a child, he'd go into the mountains to befriend the animals. Even alone, he played to his heart's content in the mountain forest. The days passed without a single worry, untouched by grief. The original Mu Chen once said that he never felt he was suffering. To him, true suffering was when his master fell gravely ill, with an illness that had reached the marrow, beyond all cure, and the moments of helplessness watching a loved one depart. Master was his only relative in this world, his last mental and emotional support. That was also the first time he tasted the pain of life and death. After his master passed away, he was left all alone to tend the temple, with no one left by his side to talk to. Each passing day was surrounded by solitude, utterly cold and desolate. Just half a month before Master Mu found him, Mu Chen had gone up the mountain to gather firewood and unfortunately slipped, falling into a deep ravine. He was alone on that deserted mountain, so no one knew of his accident. And just like that, he quietly left this world. After death, his soul flew straight to Wangzi City, just as I happened to return to the city to handle official business. When I saw Mu Chen's soul, I realized his destiny was very special. Based on his birth time and appearance, he should have had a life of glory, wealth, and everything going smoothly. This is an extremely rare destiny of both fortune and longevity in the human world. This karma is usually accumulated from many past lives, but ironically, he was now appearing in Wangzi City, proving that he had unfortunately perished unjustly in a strange land. Someone had intentionally twisted the destiny that belonged to him. As it happened, Wangzi City was recently facing a major problem, and I needed to personally descend to the mortal realm to resolve it. So I took the initiative to offer him a fair deal. I would borrow Mu Chen's identity in the living world to work, a mutually beneficial arrangement. That's why I'm here at the Mu house today. However, they certainly won't believe the things I just said, especially not Master Mu and Pei Shuiru, who will only believe even more that their biological son is a well-behaved and kind-hearted child. They think him only saying that to ease their pain. In their hearts, they are grieving deeply for their poor child, who should have been born to live a life of luxury as a young master, yet had to wander outside, suffering for over 10 years. They vow that from now on, they must compensate him greatly. The atmosphere at the table suddenly became heavy after my words, everyone harboring their own complex calculations. The 4 Mu daughters didn't provoke any further, all quietly bowing their heads and eating their meal in silence. Master Mu and Pei Shuiru's hearts were now entirely focused on me, occasionally asking tenderly if the food was to my liking. Xiao Chen, which dish do you like most? Would you like Mom to scoop you another bowl of hot soup? Their care was as thorough as it could possibly be. Sitting nearby, Mu Xuan couldn't hide the overwhelming disappointment on his face. Seeing this, Mu Yuwei was about to speak up and defend him several times, but when her gaze met mine, the biological brother, she suddenly recalled the sharp words I'd spoken earlier, and the words she'd intended to say were swallowed back down. I simply focused on enjoying the delicacies on the table. In the eyes of the Mu family members, this scene was interpreted in a completely different way. Pei Shuiru looked at me with tears welling in her eyes, an ultimate wave of pity rising within her. She could tell that on the mountain, her son must have rarely had the chance to taste such a lavish meal. After all, living in a dilapidated temple in the remote mountains, anyone could understand how harsh the living conditions were. Having enough to fill one's belly every day was lucky enough, let alone enjoying high-class food and drink. Pei Shuiru secretly made a firm resolution in her heart that from now on, she would change the menu every day to nourish her son. After dinner, the children all sat obediently in the living room. Master Mu used the excuse of wanting to build a bond with his newly returned son, me. I sat leisurely on the luxurious leather sofa in the middle of the room, excitedly fixing my eyes on the large LED TV screen right in front of me. I watched each frame on the screen with great fascination. Xiao Chen, you seem to really enjoy watching TV? Pei Shuiru asked me with a gentle smile. My eyes didn't leave the screen and I gave a vigorous nod. This television is truly fascinating. The images in here are much better than watching a play on stage. It's been a very long time since I've visited this bustling human world. I didn't expect the human world to have changed so much. I felt no different at that moment from a country bumpkin visiting the city for the first time. Pei Shuiru, witnessing this side of me, had her eyes turn red once again. Oh, my poor biological son. Clearly he's grown to this age already, yet he's never even properly watched a television. While she was lost in thought, the TV show suddenly cut to a commercial. Seeing this, Pei Shuiru quickly grabbed the remote control from the table. Xiao Chen, let Mom change the channel for you. The movie you were watching just finished today's episode. Let's switch to some other shows, dear. There are many other wonderful things to watch. I obediently nodded in agreement, deliberately acting like a very gentle and understanding son. Pei Shuiru casually flipped to another television channel. Seeing that the new channel was showing a family drama, she placed the remote back on the table. However, just a moment later, everyone's expressions in the house became awkward. Especially Mu Xuan, who was sitting nearby. His fair, delicate face suddenly flushed deep red, his eyes filled with unmistakable humiliation and resentment. How could everything be such a coincidence? The plot airing on the TV was exactly the real versus fake young master trope, the story of 2 babies swapped at birth, and today just happened to be the part where the real young master is found. Pei Shuiru was also completely stunned as she looked at the TV. I thought just switching to any channel would be fine. Who would have known the movie on the screen would be identical to this family's actual situation? This scene truly made everyone feel incredibly embarrassed. In the movie, the protagonist was welcomed home by his biological parents. The biological son had returned, but the adopted son still refused to leave. Not only did they not send the adopted son away, but on the contrary, they pampered him twice as much, treating him even better than their own biological son, cherishing the adopted son like a treasure in their palms, while the biological son was ignored like a weed by the roadside. The living room was immediately enveloped in an indescribably awkward atmosphere. Then I just had to casually remark, people in this world, I swear, why don't they know how to love their own biological children and instead show such favoritism toward an adopted one? I know they've raised him for many years and it's natural to have deep feelings, but they still shouldn't make their own biological son suffer. They shouldn't let their own flesh and blood be mistreated. I said this while shaking my head vigorously, as if I simply couldn't understand it. The Mu family members all felt I was throwing shade at them, but the trouble was, they couldn't find any evidence. It was true they hadn't sent Mu Yuan away yet, but they felt they absolutely weren't being biased, nor had they ever neglected or intentionally saddened Mu Chen. They did indeed feel a bit of lingering affection for Mu Xuan. After all, they had raised him for over 10 long years. That bond was built day by day through time. It couldn't just be cut off in a single sentence. However, they still clearly distinguished between biological and adopted. No matter how much they cared for Mu Xuan, he could never surpass Mu Chen. So they assumed Mu Chen was just critiquing the movie on TV, convinced he wasn't trying to make any pointed remarks toward them. Even if he was being sarcastic, he must surely be targeting the sisters. Master Mu and Pei Shuiru reassured themselves, trying to hide the guilt rising in their hearts. Actually, at first they had considered sending Mu Xuan away. Mu Xuan was nearly an adult anyway. They could buy him an apartment outside, provide a regular monthly allowance, and look after him until he graduated university. To their surprise, the daughters vehemently opposed that idea. They had done everything to stop their parents, and the couple themselves had eventually softened. Master Mu shot his daughters a fierce glare. Mu Xuan really couldn't take it anymore. He buried his face in his hands, sobbing softly, then suddenly turned and bolted upstairs. I looked blankly at the receding figure. What's his problem now? Mu Yuwei's face darkened. She was struggling to hold back her words. Pei Shuiru forced an awkward, unpleasant smile. It's nothing serious, dear. Maybe. He's just not quite used to things yet. I slightly knitted my brows. So after I move back here, is he planning to cry like that every single day? That's going to be incredibly annoying. Pei Shuiru was momentarily speechless at that question, feeling an immense exhaustion deep within. Are you doing this on purpose? Finally, Mu Yuwei couldn't hold back any longer. I immediately looked away, blinking with an air of complete innocence. Doing what on purpose? Mu Yuwei ground her teeth and glared at me. You obviously said those things just to provoke him. Mom and Dad already promised to make it up to you, didn't they? What more are you unhappy about? Do you have to force Mu Xuan out of this house to be happy? At this point, I finally understood the issue. I tossed the TV remote onto the table and stood up abruptly. I shot Mu Yuwei a bone-chilling look. So are you also trying to force me to leave, just to clear the path for your precious brother? I returned to my own home and I'm not even allowed to speak? Do I have to check that fake young master's mood before every word I say? After saying that, I turned on my heel and walked away. The living room fell into a terrifying silence. Master Mu angrily stepped forward, loudly scolding his youngest daughter, berating Mu Yuwei until she was begging for forgiveness. I am warning you all right now, if any of you ever take that attitude with Mu Chen again, I will kick all of you out of this house immediately. His expression became incredibly stern. You need to understand very clearly. Mu Chen is your biological brother. He is the brother born of the same father and mother. In this whole mess of swapped identities with Mu Xuan, Mu Chen is the one who is truly innocent and more pitiful. You're only worried that Mu Xuan will feel mistreated. Why don't you use your brains to think about all the years your real brother has suffered in silence? How much hardship has he endured? The Mu family doesn't mind continuing to support Mu Xuan, but he is absolutely never allowed to stand above Mu Chen. Master Mu's gaze bored into his youngest daughter, his expression looking truly terrifying. You and Mu Xuan are close in age and grew up together, so your bond is the deepest. I can understand why you're trying so hard to protect him, but you must remember this very well. Mu Chen has done nothing wrong, and he doesn't owe anyone in this house a thing. I'm only going to say these important words once. From now on, if anyone dares to make Mu Chen sad, don't blame me for skinning you alive. The corners of Mu Yuwei's mouth twitched repeatedly. She felt those threats were clearly aimed right at her. Dad, don't worry. We know where to draw the line. Mu Yuanding quickly spoke up to calm things down, once again trying to explain what had happened today. We were certain you wouldn't be home so quickly, so we only agreed to go watch his competition. If we'd known you were coming back this early, I certainly would never have gone to that match. Mu Ruolan and Mu Yaqin also nodded vigorously in agreement. The two of them were actually a pair of twins. Master Mu and Pei Shuiru headed upstairs with dark faces, leaving the four daughters standing there blankly staring at each other. Eldest sister, do you feel like this brother of ours is a bit? Mu Ruolan suddenly stopped mid-sentence. It took a long while before she found a word suitable to describe the newly returned brother. Special. His personality is truly incredibly special. Mu Yuanding reflected on everything that had happened tonight, then gave a small nod of complete agreement. He's definitely the type who won't let himself be wronged. Once that mouth starts, he can truly scold someone to death. However, it doesn't seem like he's doing it on purpose, nor does he have some evil heart wanting to provoke anyone. It's just that he says whatever is on his mind bluntly. Basically, he doesn't know how to speak tactfully or gently. That temperament is honestly just a bit too direct. She suddenly thought of the behavior of their other brother, which caused her eyebrows to knit involuntarily. Mu Xuan is indeed being a bit overly sensitive. If he keeps acting this way in the coming days without quickly adjusting his mindset, then in the end, the only one who will suffer and be miserable is himself. It's exactly like what Dad just lectured us about. Even though we've lived with him for over 10 years, have a deep bond, and always want to defend him, we still can't, time and time again, let our biological brother suffer for his sake. So his mindset definitely has to change. Mu Yuanding turned her head slightly to look at Mu Yuwei. Among us sisters, you're the closest to Mu Xuan, and you two are closest in age as well. Please take the time to talk to him and help him clear his head a bit. Tell him not to overthink things anymore. Since Mu Chen has returned, Mom and Dad will definitely favor him a bit more. It's only human nature after all. But it doesn't mean they don't love him anymore. He's still their son. Mu Yuwei might be childish and impulsive, but she's definitely not brainless. She nodded solemnly. I know. Also, Mu Yuanding paused for a moment, showing the authority of the eldest sister. You'd better have a better attitude toward Mu Chen from now on, otherwise don't blame me for teaching you a lesson myself. After warning her youngest sister, Mu Yuanding stood up and went back to her room. Mu Ruolan and Mu Yakin looked at each other. Let's go. Mu Yuwei was so furious she saw stars. What is going on? Clearly we all did it together, so why am I the only one taking the blame in the end? I didn't care what those people downstairs thought. The moment I got to my room, I slammed the door shut. This room was meticulously prepared by my parents. The decor was incredibly exquisite. From the design to the furniture, it all followed the style popular among young men. Thankfully, it wasn't pink. Otherwise, staying in a room like that, I'm afraid I would have lost sleep all night. Just as I entered the room, I sensed an unusual vibration in the air. I lightly flicked my hand, setting up a barrier around the room to prevent anyone from noticing anything strange and causing unnecessary suspicion. Immediately after, a man in black robes suddenly appeared in the middle of the room, wearing a demon mask. The man walked up to me, kneeling on one knee. Your Highness? I looked at him, my brows furrowing slightly. Why are you here? As soon as I asked, a sense of foreboding rose in my heart, and as expected. The city lord sent me to deliver a message. Your sister has already returned to Wangzicheng. Isn't she always at the 6th hall? How long has it been since she returned to Wangzicheng? Why did she return right as I set foot in the mortal world? Why did she go back there immediately? Before leaving, I held a bit of hope, thinking she'd report back only after finishing her business and wouldn't be back in Wangzicheng yet. Who knew fate would have other plans? Just as I slipped out, she arrived right after. Thinking about her previous warnings, I felt a bit guilty. Over the years, she had warned me countless times that I must never enter the mortal world on my own, and any city matters must be discussed first. But I happened to meet Mu Chen, saw that the timing was perfect, so I took advantage of her absence to arrange everything myself. With her strict temperament, I'm afraid I'm in for a serious lecture this time. Your Highness, the city lord has returned to Wangzicheng and discovered that you have entered the mortal world without permission. She is absolutely furious, so she ordered me to deliver this message. Having said that, he stood up to present a letter. A faint, ethereal light flickered in the air, and a letter appeared out of nowhere. Then the letter slowly vanished, and a line of text appeared clearly, wavering slightly in the air before quickly dissolving. Even though it was brief, I saw it very clearly. Calling it a line of text, it was actually just 4 words. I'll be there soon. This is going to be a real headache. It's not ideal for her to come to the mortal world, is it? The masked man's voice remained flat and emotionless. Your Highness, no one can change the Lord's decision. He meant I should stop overthinking it and just prepare myself to welcome her. I immediately fell silent. The man also quickly vanished from the room. I felt like a deflated balloon, completely slumped and lifeless. My sister is coming soon. I wonder how she plans to show up. If she comes as the city lord, that would be better, because that way she definitely couldn't stay for long. Hope began to flicker within me again. As for her settling scores with me later, after all, I only did it for the good of Wangzicheng, considering that perhaps she won't be too hard on me. On the 3rd morning, as the Mu family came downstairs, they saw me sitting in the living room watching TV, and everyone's footsteps suddenly halted. They rubbed their eyes hard, then looked up at the large clock in the living room. For a moment, everyone fell silent. It was only just after 6 a.m., hearing the sound behind me, I, who was engrossed in the TV, suddenly snapped out of it, turned my head to see them coming downstairs, and casually said, "Good morning." After greeting them, I immediately turned back to watch, with a look of intense concentration, as if I didn't want to waste a single second. Pei Shuoro was stunned for a moment. Once she regained her senses, she walked straight to me and gently sat down beside me. She glanced at the TV screen, seeing the morning news was on. Mu Chen, do you like watching TV that much? Should I have one installed in your room? That way you can watch it right in your own room. At this moment, Pei Shuoro only wanted to satisfy her son's every wish at any cost. Hearing that, my eyes lit up, and just as I was about to nod in agreement, Mu Yuanding, who had just come down, spoke up before I could. Mom, that's not a good idea. If we put a TV in my brother's room, what if he gets too engrossed and refuses to go to sleep at night? He's still in his growing years. The eldest daughter's words woke the mother up. Looking at her son's TV addiction, if a TV were actually installed in his room, the boy would surely watch it all night long. That definitely cannot happen. She immediately changed her mind. I didn't think it through. Doing that really isn't good. We can't let it affect Mu Chen's sleep. Let's just watch in the living room, and I can sit and watch with you. We can even discuss the plot together. My beautiful dream of binge-watching TV all night vanished, and I gave Mu Yuwei a resentful look. This eldest sister definitely doesn't like me. She won't even let me enjoy the TV in peace. In comparison, it seems my sister back home is still much better. Pei Shueru realized her son was sulking, feeling both amused and sympathetic. What kid these days doesn't play on their phone? Hardly anyone is interested in a TV anymore. Yet her son found it so novel, who would believe it? She gently coaxed him. It really isn't convenient to have a TV in your room. It would really interfere with your night's rest. Besides, you shouldn't just hole up in your room all the time. Bedrooms are only for sleeping. If you want to watch, just come to the living room. No one in this house likes watching TV. No one will fight you for it. I thought about it for a while and found the reasoning somewhat sound, so I obediently nodded. But then I didn't forget to emphasize one thing. Then everyone must absolutely not fight me for the remote. Pei Shueru couldn't help but burst out laughing, her eyes full of affection. All right, the TV in this house is all yours. If anyone dares to fight you for the channel, I'll deal with them myself. As she spoke, she gave a meaningful glare toward the daughters who were coming downstairs one by one. Mu Yuwei's lips twitched slightly. How long has it been since she last watched TV? There's no way she'd fight her brother for the TV. If anyone's fighting, it's definitely the youngest. Mu Yuwei glanced at the fourth sister. Mu Yuwei immediately reacted as if her tail had been stepped on. Big sister, why are you looking at me? Do you really think I'd fight him for the channel? I wouldn't dream of doing something so childish. Just as she loudly protested, everyone in the living room, from me, Pei Shueru, the other three Mu sisters, to Mu Xuan, who had just arrived downstairs, and even Master Mu, all stared at her at once, each with a different expression. I leisurely added another blow. Even if you wanted to fight me, you'd have to see if you have the guts first. Pei Shueru immediately turned and shouted at the youngest, "From now on, do not fight with Mu Chen over the TV. Do you hear me? If I catch you bullying your brother, I'll tell your father to cut off your allowance completely, leaving you without a single penny." Mu Yuwei was so aggrieved she puffed her cheeks like a frog, holding her face with an indignant expression, stealthily giving me a fiery glare. As for me, I didn't even give her half a glance, making her so angry she lost her appetite for breakfast. Usually children of this age are all in the 12th grade. Mu Xuan will take the college entrance exam next June, and Mu Chen should logically be doing the same. However, since he had always lived in a temple, he had never received formal or systematic schooling, and with his age already set, what grade should he start in now? Could he keep up if he went straight into 12th grade? Academic records were easy to handle, but which grade he should enter was the real concern. Master Mu's brows furrowed more as he thought. Then he brought up the matter of schooling with me. This was also a good chance for me to learn about this world. Standing nearby, Mu Xuan's eyes darted around before he smiled and suggested, "Father, why don't we let Mu Chen join my class? That way I can easily take care of him, and I can also help him with his studies." I didn't even bother to glance at him. Master Mu was somewhat swayed by the idea, but worried that his son might not keep up. If he couldn't keep up, his grades would be terrible, while Mu Xuan's scores were always at the top. When the two are compared like that, and with the fact that the Mu family raised the wrong son, which couldn't be hidden in elite circles anyway. In fact, they had no intention of covering it up, so once everyone knows, they'll surely pull the two out for gossip and comparison. What if that hurts his son's self-esteem? Mu Yuwei spoke calmly. "Father, you don't need to worry too much about this. If my brother can't keep up with the lessons, we can just hire a tutor for one-on-one sessions. When we're free, the sisters can also personally teach him. This semester is also coming to an end, so let's have him wait until next semester to enroll. Using this time to thoroughly catch up on his knowledge, I believe there won't be any major issues." Pei Shueru's eyes suddenly lit up. She joyfully clapped her hands together. "Right, why didn't I think of that? We can absolutely hire a tutor, except for the youngest whose grades are a bit low. The other three have excellent grades. Tutoring Mu Chen through the 12th grade, curriculum definitely won't be a problem." Having said that, she made the decision herself. "First, let's let Mu Chen rest at home for a few days, then the three of you sisters will take turns, each in charge of one subject, helping Mu Chen quickly get used to the school program." Mu Yuwei nodded. "Yes, okay." Since the eldest sister agreed, the second and third sisters also nodded in turn. For a moment, Mu Yuwei didn't know whether to feel lucky or frustrated at being underestimated. I had originally intended to refuse, but seeing that the three sisters had agreed, and seeing Pei Shueru's excited face, I silently swallowed my rejection. Mu Xuan bit his lower lip, lowering his eyes slightly to hide the resentment rising in the depths of his gaze. The story of the Mu family raising the wrong child had long since ceased to be a secret in these circles. My parents had no intention of hiding anything. They had even planned ahead, waiting until I adjusted to the environment to hold a gala, inviting all the prominent families to attend, to formally and officially restore my identity, to prevent me from being ridiculed later or suffering any disadvantage. Although I'm not very fond of such occasions, I understand they are necessary procedures. Otherwise, the world would surely fabricate stories, assuming a legitimate son like me wasn't welcomed, or was even being suppressed by that fake son, Mu Xuan. As soon as I had adapted a little to the new environment, Peishuero couldn't contain her eagerness and dragged me to a large shopping mall for a massive shopping spree. Except for the eldest sister and father who were working, everyone was dragged along to escort me through the streets. Coincidentally, only Xuan was left behind at home. Mu Yuwei sat in the passenger seat, looking furious, occasionally glancing through the rearview mirror to give me a sharp glare. I didn't even bother to lift my eyelids to look at her once, no need to guess what she was upset about. It was Mu Xuan's own choice not to come along. Did she expect me to get on my knees and beg him to come? Just as the car reached the mall parking lot, Mu Yuwei quickly volunteered to park the car. Mu Ruolan and Mu Yakin accompanied our mother as we walked through the main doors of the mall together. And thus, today's shopping journey officially began. The Mu daughters spent the whole time carrying bags while Peishuero intimately held my arm. While walking, I suddenly stopped, tilting my head to listen carefully for a moment before asking, "Mom, does everyone hear any strange sounds?" I just heard a very dull thud, like something just fell from a great height, slamming into the ground. And it definitely wasn't the sound of a normal object falling. That sound was incredibly distinct. Peishuero listened as well. "I don't hear anything. This is a huge shopping mall after all. It's so noisy and bustling. If any sound reached us, it would likely just be the chatter of the crowd." As soon as she finished, Mu Rulan noticed something wrong up ahead, with faint screams of terror echoing back. "Mom, it looks like something happened up ahead." My expression changed slightly, and I grabbed Peishuero's wrist. "Mom, let's go check it out." Before anyone could stop me, I had already pulled my mother and dashed off, weaving through the crowd toward the scene, leaving the sisters behind, staring at each other in bewilderment. "Since when is he so nosy?" Mu Yuwei muttered as she hurried over after parking. Mu Roland gave her a cold look. "If Mom hears you say that, you're going to get a severe scolding for sure." Mu Yuwei went silent, rolling her eyes. "Let's catch up and see what's going on, just in case there's real trouble. Mom and our brother could be in danger." Mu Yakin spoke calmly, and quickly followed them. Mu Ruolan also followed close behind, leaving only Mu Yuwei to trail along leisurely. Peishuero was pulled by her son for a long distance, and soon the two of them reached where the crowd was gathered. Seeing her son pushing his way through the crowd, the corner of her mouth couldn't help but twitch. She really couldn't have imagined it. Mu Chen usually looks so quiet and cold, yet he turned out to be such a curious, nosy child. Oh my, seeing him like this, he actually looks much cuter, doesn't he? However, as soon as Peishuero saw the scene before her, her face instantly turned pale. She let out a terrified scream, then instinctively stood in front of me to shield me. As if that wasn't safe enough, she quickly turned around and covered my eyes tightly with her hands, not wanting me to see the horrifying scene ahead. A fatal accident had just occurred in the shopping mall, a very serious one. Actually, I just wanted to see the situation. So why did Mom cover my eyes? I am a being of the underworld. I can tell how someone died with just a glance. If this truly was a wrongful death, wouldn't that soul end up in my Wang Zicheng? Then they'd eventually become someone under my jurisdiction anyway. Geez, Wang Zicheng is really getting overcrowded these days. Mom, I'm not a child anymore. I'm not scared at all. I gently lowered Peishuero's hands and spoke to her calmly. Peishuero gave me a look of disapproval. How are you not a child? You haven't even had your birthday yet. A real miscalculation on my part. I, a 1,000-year-old ghost, am now being treated like a wet-behind-the-ears kid. Mu Rulan arrived and also immediately stood in front of me. I could only helplessly rub my forehead. The mall security force arrived instantly to handle the scene, simultaneously calling the police and an ambulance. They began to evacuate the crowd surrounding the area. Peishuero naturally wouldn't let me stay to watch anymore, firmly pulling me away from the scene as fast as possible. Anyway, affected by the recent accident, Peishuero felt we had bought enough things, so she decided to head home, leaving the rest for another day. A death in the mall like this really felt quite ominous and gloomy. Mom, you all go to the car and wait for me. I'll go to the corridor to get some fresh air. Peishuero had planned to go with me, but I firmly refused her. I'm not a 3-year-old who needs a parent hovering just to get some air. I followed the signs to the long corridor. As I stood by the corridor window, a young man approached me. Seeing me there, he suddenly jumped in fright, then bowed his head and hurried past. I fixed my gaze on his back, my nostrils twitching slightly as I took a deep breath of the surrounding air. I smelled the scent of death. I intentionally lingered by the window for a while longer, and as expected, the man quickly returned. Seeing that I was still standing there, he froze for a second, apparently not expecting me to still be around. I waited for him calmly, and as he neared, I inhaled deeply, once more to confirm for certain that I indeed smelled that aura of death coming from him, even though it was very faint. I couldn't help but stare deeply at him. What are you looking at? Never seen a handsome guy before? The other guy immediately noticed my gaze, and like he had his tail stepped on, he shouted back loudly before scurrying away. No matter how you looked at it, that retreating figure exuded extreme guilt and panic. If someone is near death, they carry an extremely thick aura of death. But the man just now clearly wasn't like that, so there were only two possibilities. Either he had just been in contact with someone else's deathly aura, or he had just killed someone with his own hands. The first possibility has too many scenarios, making it hard to draw a conclusion right now. But if it's the second case, things become much simpler and clearer. I couldn't help but immediately think of the young girl who had just fallen from the upper floors of the mall. I casually brushed my hands together, then turned to walk away. In the car, Pei Shuero was waiting, feeling like she was sitting on hot coals. Witnessing that horrifying sight just now had stirred an indescribable sense of unease within her. She was terrified that something bad would happen to her newly found son. Not until the whole family was safely home did the heavy weight in her heart finally lift. She quickly pushed the mall incident aside, busily sorting through all the newly bought items. As for me, as soon as I got home, I sprawled out on the sofa, turned on the TV, and continued watching intently, just like a total TV addict. Mu Ruolan and Mu Yakin had both returned to their rooms to bury themselves in studies. Both sisters were top students. Since they'd be seniors next year, the academic workload was becoming incredibly stressful. Only Mu Yuwei was the most relaxed, casually plopping herself down on the living room sofa. Seeing her mother busy upstairs, she couldn't help her habit of sarcasm, raising her voice to taunt. "Such a country bumpkin, what's so great about a TV anyway? Truly someone who has never seen the world." My eyes remained glued to the TV screen, but hearing her words, I nodded slightly, admitting it with complete indifference. Yeah, I grew up in a remote temple since I was little, so of course I don't know anything about the world. I am the prince of Wangzicheng, and ever since my sister dumped all the work on me, I've been busy beyond belief, truly not having a single minute's rest to bother with the trivial matters of the mortal realm. I only grasped the general situation. But now, living as Mu Chen, I must seize every second to learn about this world, and I found that watching TV is the fastest way. Just sitting still allows me to hold all the world's affairs in my hand. It really is both convenient and effortless. Mu Yuwei was choked up by my answer. You're definitely doing this on purpose, aren't you? Purposely bringing that up to make us feel guilty, wanting everyone to feel sorry for you, just to solidify your position in this house, isn't it? Mu Yuwei kept rambling in my ear, so I granted her a look of utter contempt, as if looking at a complete fool. Glimpsing someone coming downstairs out of the corner of my eye, I didn't hesitate to immediately tattle loudly. "Mom, Sister Yuwei is scolding me again. She called me a country bumpkin, and said I'm purposely making everyone feel guilty, to force everyone to feel sorry for me. She keeps looking at me with such hostility. Is she trying to kick me out of this house?" Mu Yuwei's eyes widened in horror, so aggrieved she almost coughed up blood. Before she could even open her mouth to react, one of her ears was suddenly grabbed and yanked upward. "Calm down, Mom. Please calm down a bit. Don't listen to his nonsense. I absolutely did not say that." Mu Yuwei grimaced in pain but didn't forget to scream to clear her name. I pointed my finger right at her nose, my cheeks puffing out in a fit of pique, while a perfectly crafted expression of grievance flickered across my face. But she clearly said those words herself. She called me a country bumpkin. She said I'd never even seen a television before. I already explained to her that I grew up in a temple deep in the mountains, so it's only natural that I don't know the ways of the world. But then she just started berating me. Mu Yuwei opened her mouth to argue back, but those words had indeed fallen from her own lips, even if her intention wasn't quite what I made it out to be. "I see you're just itching for a beating. Come here this instant. Let me show you how a mother disciplines her child today. Stop bothering your younger brother while he's trying to watch TV." This time Pei Shuero showed no mercy. She grabbed her by the ear and dragged her away with a firm hand. She was determined to give this wretched girl a lesson she wouldn't forget. She truly couldn't fathom what had gotten into her child. She showered Mu Xuan with nothing but absolute love, pampering him as if he were the rarest treasure on earth. So why, the moment Mu Chen returned, did she keep looking for ways to provoke him at every turn? Mu Chen was clearly her own flesh and blood, her biological brother, born from the same mother. Since she was so incapable of prioritizing family ties, it seemed she hadn't been disciplined enough in the past. I cast a cold glance at the shrieking Mu Yuwei, without a single shred of sympathy in my heart. I even flashed her a triumphant smirk, infuriating Mu Yuwei to the point where she nearly exploded with rage. I had seen through it all now. Among the 4 daughters of the Mu family, this Mu Yuwei was the most dim-witted of them all, stubbornly foolish beyond salvation. My attention shifted back to the television screen, staring intently at the news channel as if waiting for something with bated breath. Just as I had suspected, the local news station reported on the incident at the mall. At approximately 11 o'clock a.m. today, a fall occurred at the Four Seasons shopping mall in the city center. A young woman was critically injured following a sudden incident. Despite emergency efforts, the victim has tragically passed away. The specific cause of the fall is currently under police investigation. She really is dead. I narrowed my eyes slightly, unable to stop thinking about the person I'd encountered in the corridor earlier, around the same age, his expression etched with panic and a guilty conscience. Most importantly, the scent of death clung to him. Could that man be connected to the deceased? Was that girl's fall truly an accident, a suicide, or perhaps murder? I felt a strong urge to go to the scene and investigate, to see if her time had truly come or if she died with a grievance. But I had only just returned to the Mu family, and this city was still entirely foreign to me. Trying to venture out on my own would likely be harder than reaching the heavens. At that thought, I had to temporarily set that plan aside. Once the news report concluded, I rose slowly and strolled over to the other side of the room. I feigned kindness as I spoke. "Mom, please don't scold sister anymore." Actually, what she said earlier wasn't entirely wrong. Before I could even finish my sentence, Mu Yuwei shrieked with pure resentment. "I don't need your hypocritical saintliness. Now she's really poked a hornet's nest." Peishuero had been on the verge of calming down, but now her fury erupted once again like a wildfire. "Mu Chen, don't waste your breath on this wretched girl. She's thick-skinned enough, breaking a few feather dusters on her won't hurt. I have some tonic stewing for you in the kitchen. Go check if it's finished yet." Peishuero clearly wanted to send her son elsewhere. I gave Mu Yuwei a look filled with mock pity, then quickly headed to the kitchen for food. Mu Yuwei could tell I was gloating, her eyes drilling into my back with pure rage. Only to be caught red-handed by Peishuero. "Mu Yuwei, I am absolutely breaking this broom on you today." I was still contemplating how to go about finding that man I encountered in the corridor. Surprisingly, the opportunity delivered itself right to my doorstep. The Mu family was about to host a grand banquet to officially recognize me, and nearly every prominent figure in Haicheng's high society had received an invitation. On the day of the banquet, the Mu family villa was abuzz with excitement. Guests arrived in a steady stream, dressed in their finest, toasting and celebrating in luxury. Properly attired young ladies could be seen everywhere, alongside successful gentlemen in elegant suits. They stood in small groups, engaged in polite conversation. I had remained in my room upstairs, while Peishuero was far too busy downstairs to get away. She planned to come up and get me when it was time, to officially introduce me to everyone. I had finished changing into a high-end bespoke suit, and seeing that the time was near, I stepped out of my room. As I passed Mu Zhuan's room, I paused for a moment, tilting my head slightly to listen. It wasn't that I intended to eavesdrop, but the people inside were speaking quite loudly, likely because of the commotion downstairs. Besides, not being a mere mortal, I could recognize voices with a single listen. The woman speaking with Mu Xuan was my aunt by name. For this significant recognition banquet, the entire Mu clan from Beijing had arrived, including the eldest uncle's family who were heirs to the company, the ancestral home, and most of the family fortune, as well as the high and mighty Grandma Mu. But their sincerity seemed lackluster to me. The banquet was clearly scheduled for today, yet they only leisurely arrived last night. Grandma Mu had moved into this villa, while the uncle's family stayed at a hotel in the city center. I rested my chin on my hand, musing. It seems Mu Xuan and the uncle's family are very close. This aunt had given me nothing but fleeting, disdainful glances from the start, offering only perfunctory pleasantries to get it over with. While lost in thought, I heard footsteps approaching from within, so I quickly retreated into my own room. Once the two of them had left the room and headed downstairs, I opened my door and stepped out once more. Peishuero arrived at that moment to find me, and seeing me in my fresh attire, she beamed. Her eyes were filled with kindness and a touch of awe. "Mu Chen, you look truly handsome tonight." Her words were certainly no exaggeration. Peishuero thought to herself that perhaps due to his spiritual path, unburdened by the distractions of the secular world, he had developed such a pure and enlightened aura. The more she looked, the more she loved this child, and the more her heart ached for him. She vowed silently to herself that she would do everything in her power to protect him from now on, so that he could always maintain his current self, living a life of peace and freedom from worry. "It's almost time. Let me take you downstairs." After a few steps, I asked as if offhandedly, "Shouldn't we call Mu Zhuan to come along, Mom?" "No need. Tonight's banquet is specifically for you. He's currently with his aunt." "It's fine. Inviting him might just make him overthink things. He's been very sensitive lately, which makes it hard for your father and me to know how to handle it. It seems the aunt dotes on him immensely. From what I've gathered recently, the relationship between my surrogate father and his eldest brother doesn't seem particularly warm either. Otherwise, after the family estate was divided, father wouldn't have moved to Haicheng to start over. Though the family returns to Beijing annually to gather, it's purely out of respect for Grandma Mu. So why does the aunt favor Mu Xuan so much?" Peishuero found nothing strange about it, as she patiently explained to me, "You already know the situation with your father's side. Your father has a brother and a sister. Your eldest uncle and aunt were never able to have a son. Your aunt did have a son, but after all, that child doesn't bear the Mu surname. Only I was able to give birth to a precious son like you." As she said this, a look of apology flickered across Peishuero's brow. "By all rights, the one who should have enjoyed all this affection should have been my Mu Chen. He is the true young master the Mu family should cherish, and yet, fate played a cruel trick. Every time she thought of the past, she couldn't help but feel a pang of heartache. I raised an eyebrow slightly. So that was the reason after all. I had been back with the Mu family for over 2 weeks, and tonight was my first official debut. With Pei Shuiru and my father on either side, I walked down the stairs step by step with ease. My appearance and aura immediately drew every eye in the room, capturing the undivided attention of all the guests, without a hint of shyness or hesitation. Every gesture and movement radiated a dignified presence, clearly the air of a young master from a noble lineage, meticulously raised with the utmost care. When Mu Yuwei saw me as the center of attention, his heart couldn't help but tighten painfully. He stared at my figure without blinking, unable to hide his disappointment and deep-seated envy. Mu Yuwei, don't let this fluster you. He's just putting on an act right now. Anyone can play pretend like that. You are the true young master raised by the Mu family. You must never forget that. You've lived in this house for over a decade, so what if he's the biological one? Affection, after all, takes time to build. Lu Monkey noticed the shift in Mu Yuwei's emotions, so she gently patted the back of his hand to reassure him and offered a few soft words of comfort. Mu Yuwei forced a wry smile. Auntie, I'm fine. In truth, I'm genuinely happy for everyone. Father and mother have finally found their biological son. It's a momentous occasion. I've enjoyed the Mu family's blessings for so many years. In the end, I am the one who feels I've wronged Mu Chen. Lu Monkey shot him a frustrated side-eye as she scolded him in a sharp whisper. What does this have to do with you? Weren't you just an infant back then as well? The fault lies with your parents for not being careful, which led to this identity mix-up. No matter who's to blame, it certainly isn't you. Now set your heart at ease and stop letting your mind wander. I know your parents' character better than anyone. They've devotedly raised you all these years, so even with their biological son back, it's absolutely impossible for them to stop loving you. You need to maintain your composure. Don't go devaluing yourself like this. In short, remember well what I'm telling you. You've done nothing wrong, and you owe no one an apology. Do you hear me? Mu Yuwei bit his lip and nodded slightly, saying nothing more to cause friction. His parents truly wouldn't abandon him or stop loving him, but things would certainly never be the same as they once were. Previously within this house, and even within the vast Mu clan, whether in Haicheng or far-off Beijing, he was always the Mu family's sole grandson. The whole family coddled him like a fragile treasure. His every request was granted immediately, and he was always the center of everyone's world. But what about now? He felt a massive, undeniable sense of loss. Since the day Mu Chen returned, he seemed to have vanished from his parents' eyes, as they were now entirely focused on Mu Chen alone. Even his sisters were the same, save for perhaps the fourth sister, who still protected him wholeheartedly. The more he thought about it, the more Mu Yuwei felt. Wronged as the things that were originally his were now being heartlessly split in half by another. Who could possibly endure such a drastic shift? While he was lost in his train of thought, Father Mu and Pei Shuiru very solemnly introduced me to all the invited guests. They made no attempt to hide their regard and affection for me, and even the 4 Mu sisters gathered around their parents. This sight in the eyes of the surrounding onlookers naturally carried an entirely different meaning. Mu Yuwei, this Mu family is absolutely beyond belief. They're all standing there putting on a show of familial bliss. By what right do they heartlessly cast you aside like this? Lu Monkey was busy socializing and chatting with the guests. A few wealthy young men who were normally close with Mu Yuwei crowded around him, speaking out with righteous indignation. Don't speak so recklessly. Tonight is Mu Chen's night, after all. This banquet was organized specifically for him. He is the well-deserved guest of honor. What would it look like if I went up there and made a scene? It wasn't that Father Mu or Pei Shuiru had intentionally excluded him. Actually, before the banquet began, Pei Shuiru had suggested that Mu Yuwei should join everyone on stage. However, Mu Yuwei had firmly declined the offer, insisting that Mu Chen was the true young master, and since the banquet was only for him, he felt it would be inappropriate for him to be in that position. His words had sounded incredibly reasonable. After considering it, Pei Shuiru felt that if he stood aside like that, it probably wouldn't be good for him either, as it would inevitably lead to comparisons, which would only make his situation even more awkward. So, the idea was ultimately scrapped. However, even though he'd agreed to let it go, a deep sense of shame welled up within Mu Yuwei. Even though he spoke that way now, the sense of loss in his tone was unmistakable, which only served to further incense his friends on his behalf. Mu Yuwei, even though that Mu Chen is the biological son, you've lived in the Mu house for over a decade. There's no reason for him to exclude you so quickly after returning. Raising one more son is nothing to a family like the Moose. In terms of who was here first, he's the true outsider, the latecomer. How can you use the logic of, who came first to say such things? He is, after all, my parents' biological son, and he endured so much hardship in that remote temple. While I've enjoyed all the wealth and luxury here with the Moose, it's only natural for him to feel a bit of resentment. I can understand and sympathize with all of that, so we'll never be petty or hold it against him. Mu Xuan intentionally put on an air of great magnanimity. His friends curled their lips in disdain, scorn, and contempt clear in their eyes. A wild kid raised in some backwater temple, he probably hasn't even seen what a TV looks like. It's unimaginable that such a country bumpkin still exists. Between you and that mud-stained country boy, anyone with a brain knows who deserves more affection. You are the noble young master the Mu family, carefully cultivated with wealth and power. That bumpkin has no right to even be compared to you. If Uncle Mu and Miss Pei keep being so blind, they'll surely come to regret it sooner or later. Just wait for that bumpkin to embarrass the moose and let the whole family become the laughingstock of high society. Mu Xuan, you shouldn't be so submissive. The more you yield and retreat, the easier it becomes for others to bully you. The things that are rightfully yours, you must stand up and fight for. Mu Xuan nodded repeatedly. I know, I understand all of that. Please, rest assured. No one at home dares to bully me. My fourth sister still treats me as well as she ever did. Though his words seemed intended to reassure his friends, they were actually laced with pointed barbs. By mentioning only that Mu Yuwei was still kind to him, he was indirectly implying that his other three sisters no longer cared for him like they used to. Are they planning to toss aside their adopted brother now that the biological one is back? Mu Xuan stopped right on cue, having achieved his goal, and said nothing more on the matter. He didn't actually intend to do anything truly malicious. It was just that seeing Mu Chen steal the limelight earlier made him fear he would quickly integrate into the social circle and then steal away all the attention that rightfully belonged to him. So he decided to provoke his friends to spread some unsavory rumors. Bad news travels fast, and while it might not stop anything, it would at least cause some damage, wouldn't it? While the group was deep in conversation, they spotted the guest of honor for the evening, and that person was none other than me. As I strode toward them, their expressions shifted rapidly, though they quickly scrambled to regain their composure. They reassured themselves that I couldn't have heard what they'd just said, so what was there to fear? There was no reason for a guilty conscience. Mu Xuan was actually feeling quite flustered himself, so he didn't notice the close friend standing beside him. From the moment he saw me, that guy's face drained of all color, and he quickly averted his eyes to avoid my gaze, his hands nervously interlaced, only to pull apart instantly, as if struck by an electric shock. Then he tried his best to appear natural and calm. You look truly handsome tonight. Mu Xuan offered a gentle smile and a compliment. I gave a slight casual nod. For looking this good was surely a given, wasn't it? On the other hand, this was truly a strange twist of fate, as he and I actually shared some physical similarities. When I saw Mu Chen's soul in Wang Zicheng, even I couldn't help but feel incredibly surprised. Who would have thought this unlucky new ghost arriving to report would possess a face so remarkably like my own? Later, after giving it careful thought, I saw that this was perhaps a destiny long foreordained. I accepted the compliment with an entirely unfazed demeanor, then shifted my gaze to the man beside Mu Xuan. And this gentleman is... Mu Xuan's face betrayed his surprise, as he looked at his close friend and began to introduce him. This is Zhang Yan, a very close friend of mine. He's the young master of the Zhang family. Mu Xuan and Zhang Yan had known each other for a long time, the two of them having been inseparable since elementary school, remaining bonded right up until now. So, it's young master Zhang. I intentionally drawled my words as if they carried a very deep, hidden meaning. Mu Xuan looked between the two of us with an incredibly odd expression, and asked with deep suspicion, Mu Chen, could it be that you're already acquainted with Zhang Yan? Before I could even open my mouth to answer, Zhang Yan hurriedly and frantically spoke up in denial. Not at all, we don't know each other at all, but his attitude was far too eager, which only served to make him seem incredibly suspicious. The smile on my face grew even more mysterious. It's true that we aren't acquainted. We just happened to brush past each other in a mall corridor a few days ago. I intentionally drawled that last part out, and before I could even finish my sentence, Zhang Yan frantically cut me off immediately. I just remembered I have an urgent matter to deal with right away. I'll take my leave now. Let's find a time to hang out another day. Having said that, without waiting for Mu Xuan's reaction, he turned and bolted. That retreating back looked exactly like someone fleeing for their life. I had actually intended to approach him and test him a bit. Who knew Zhang Yan's psychological fortitude would be so pathetic? Wasn't he directly confirming to me that there was definitely more to this story? Because if he were entirely innocent, then why would he be exhibiting such extreme panic? While thinking, I shifted my gaze toward Mu Xuan. Under my steady gaze, Mu Xuan's entire body suddenly went rigid as he was overcome by a wave of intense tension and confusion, stammering as he asked, Is something wrong? This friend of yours. I spoke each word with deliberate slowness, as if I were intentionally playing mind games with Mu Xuan. Mu Chen, if Zhang Yan has ever accidentally offended you, then I beg you not to hold it against him or keep it in your heart. I'm certain he never had any intention of disrespecting you. He's actually quite a good person at heart. I merely offered an indifferent smile. It's nothing. After all, he is your close friend, so why don't you invite him over to the house sometime? Mu Xuan was clearly stunned for a moment upon hearing this, his lips moving as if he wanted to say something, but I gave him no chance to speak. Let's settle on the day after tomorrow. Invite him over for a meal at our home, and I'll have the kitchen prepare everything meticulously, including some high-end sweets to give him a proper reception. By the day after tomorrow, our eldest uncle's family will have already returned to Beijing. My tone was not one of negotiation with him, but a cold, undeniable announcement. With that, I turned and walked away decisively, leaving Mu Xuan without a single second to decline. Mu Xuan and his friends were left staring at each other in bewilderment, their heads filled with massive question marks. There was a reason I was targeting Jiang Yan. Besides the scent of death clinging to him that day, there were related reports on the news afterward. They said that on that day at the shopping mall, the girl who fell was ruled to have died from an accidental fall. If it were truly a simple accidental fall, then perhaps there wouldn't be much else to say. But the problem lay in the fact that I had felt a very real surge of resentment, the lingering, unappeased grievance of the girl who had fallen. Even though I'm currently residing in the dusty, mortal world, I still have certain premonitions whenever a new member joins Wang Zicheng. Naturally, I still sense those things. When Yimo had been caught up in a very complicated dispute and ultimately met with a tragic accident, falling from the building. Yet, the truth behind it was heartlessly covered up by them. In this world, the number of people dying from old age or sudden daily disasters is countless, and I can sense every single person who dies with a grievance. Everything requires a certain thread of fate to lead the way. I think perhaps it's because I happened to be at the mall that day, unintentionally present at the very scene of the crime, and had even been in very close proximity to the deceased, which is why I was able to sense her resentment so keenly. Wang Zicheng is originally a refuge for souls who perish in accidents, while those who pass away naturally go through the standard procedures. The underworld then decides a soul's next step based on the deeds they performed while they were still alive. Most people are sent to be reincarnated. A few ascend to heaven thanks to the merit they've accumulated, and yet another group must be brought into Wang Zicheng to wait until their original natural lifespan truly comes to an end. In the case of those heartlessly wronged by others, they must languish and wait until the truth is finally brought to light. Only when their resentment has fully dissipated can they continue into the cycle of reincarnation. But currently, Wang Zicheng is in a state of severe overcrowding, as souls who should have long since been reincarnated simply cannot find a way to leave this place, forced to continue wandering within these walls. And so it goes, day after day, and year after year, the number of souls arriving at Wang Zicheng continues to climb, while the number of those who can depart grows ever smaller. If this situation is allowed to persist, then Wang Zicheng will eventually vanish into the void, taking tens of thousands of souls with it into oblivion. Ultimately, the root cause of this predicament is that, for some unknown reason, the gate of rebirth has suddenly slammed shut, and there is simply no way to force it open again. With the gate closed, souls are naturally unable to leave to begin their next lives. My big sister and I have agonized over this insoluble problem for a very long time. Despite trying every possible way, I still couldn't find the answer. Until later, when Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva gave me a guidance, at that time, big sister and I were finally enlightened and understood everything, and that was the origin of why I had to descend to this mortal world. My only purpose for appearing here is to collect as much merit and human faith as possible to restart the gate of rebirth, so that Wang Zicheng can operate again. Now that the opportunity has come to my doorstep, I can't just push it away, right? No matter how much Mu Xuan thought about it, he couldn't understand what on earth I was trying to do. After the banquet ended, he told Pei Shuero about this. He originally thought that since Pei Shuero seemed to care about me so much now, she would perhaps refuse, but unexpectedly, she happily agreed immediately. He had no other way with Pei Shuero. When he happened to run into Mu Yuwei outside, his eyes flickered. He greeted her as usual, then acted as if he had something to say but was hesitating. Anyone with sharp eyes could see he had something on his mind, let alone Mu Yuwei, who always cared about him. Mu Yuwei had intended to avoid him. She felt a bit guilty about tonight's events. She felt Xiao Xuan had been mistreated, but she didn't know what to do. Xiao Xuan grew up with her, pampered by her and her sisters for over a decade. But Xiao Chen was also her biological brother. Both the palm and back of the hand are flesh. If it meant making Xiao Chen suffer, just so Xiao Xuan wouldn't feel mistreated, then that definitely wasn't right. If she dared to do that, her parents would dare to kick her out of the house immediately. So for a moment, she didn't know how to face it, thinking it would be better to avoid Xiao Xuan. But seeing his troubled face, acting like he wanted to speak but was shy, she still felt a pang of pity. Xiao Xuan, do you have something to say to your fourth sister? Mu Xuan bit his lip, hesitating for a moment. Fourth sister Xiao Chen. I don't know if Jiang Yan offended Xiao Chen somehow, making him unhappy. If that's the case, then I'm willing to apologize on Jiang Yan's behalf. But Xiao Chen, he told me to invite Jiang Yan to our house. Fourth sister, do you think Xiao Chen wants to cause trouble? Mu Yuwei frowned deeply, clearly finding my actions very strange as well. After thinking for a while, she said, "It's fine, I'm free anyway. I'll be home then. I won't let him do anything reckless." Mu Xuan was silent for a moment. Fourth sister. Could we just let it go? Xiao Chen is also my brother, and Zhang Yan is my best friend. I don't want any conflict to arise between them. Mu Yuwei scratched her head. Xiao Xuan, you know the situation at home right now. If he wants to invite your friend over, Mom and Dad will definitely agree. Not just agree, they'll be very happy. So there's basically no reason to refuse. If I were to say no, Mom would definitely give me a hard time. Seeing Mu Xuan's look of disappointment, Mu Yuwei patted her chest in assurance. Don't worry, I'll keep an eye on him then. I absolutely won't let him bully Zhang Yan. Now that things had reached this point, Mu Xuan had no other choice. There was another reason he wanted to stop it, which was an indescribable sense of unease in his heart. He always trusted his intuition, but since he couldn't stop it, he could only think of another way. Overall, tonight's homecoming banquet was held quite successfully. Although Grandmother Mu's expression wasn't very enthusiastic or happy, she wasn't so foolish as to do things she shouldn't on such an occasion. The night passed peacefully, and all the guests were satisfied. Since returning to the Mu house, I have always been free, no matter how you look at it. Peijuero and Father Mu have never demanded that I act a certain way. They just told me that since I am home, I should do whatever makes me comfortable. Every day I sleep until I wake up naturally, since there's nothing to do early in the morning anyway. Besides, every night I stay up late online to research and familiarize myself with this world, so waking up a bit late is understandable. In the Mu household, no one blames me, but I forgot that there are now a few more people in the house, and it seems they don't like me very much. As soon as I came downstairs this morning, I was scolded. The elders are all up already, yet you're something else, sleeping with your eyes shut until now. When Grandmother Mu saw me coming downstairs, her eyes darted back and forth as she shot me a side glance and spoke with great dissatisfaction. Look at our Xiao Xuan. He woke up early to help prepare breakfast. You should learn from Xiao Xuan on this point, at least show some filial piety towards your elders. Peijuero heard this and was unhappy. Mother, there's nothing in the house that needs help. Let the kids sleep as long as they want. Besides, it's not late right now. Xiaoxi isn't even up yet. Besides, being filial isn't just about waking up early or late. Peijuero instinctively defended her son, but she didn't realize that her defense unintentionally hurt Mu Xuan's feelings. Wasn't it implying that he intentionally woke up early to make breakfast just to flatter everyone? I wasn't moved at all, sitting down leisurely, looking at Mu Xuan and exclaiming as if I just realized something. I've been home for a while now, yet it seems I've never tasted the breakfast you prepared. Is it because you prepared too little? Everyone finished it and left. None for me? I see you waking up later than me every day. So it turns out you wake up early to make breakfast and then go back to sleep? Mu Xuan was so embarrassed his face turned bright red. Since I returned, he always felt uncomfortable in his heart. Due to awkwardness, he tried his best to avoid me, so he always woke up very late. Plus, it's the holidays, so all day long, except for coming down for 3 meals, he spent the rest of his time mostly cooped up in his room. As for breakfast, there are servants in the house. He's the young master of the Mu family. How could he be in the kitchen frequently? Seeing Grandmother Mu praise you so much, the breakfast you make must be delicious. I want to try it tomorrow too, I said with a smile, not forcing Mu Yuwei to make breakfast at all, but the meaning behind the words was clear to everyone. Grandmother Mu became even more irritated. There are servants in the house. Why are you ordering Xiao Xuan around? I looked at her with a confused expression. How is it ordering around? He keeps saying he's my older brother. What's wrong with an older brother making breakfast for his younger brother? Moreover, I also wanted to help him, show his filial piety to Grandmother Mu, so Everyone at the table, except for Peijuero, looked like they were listening to me talk nonsense. My expression was extremely serious. Cooking skills must be developed through practice. Without practice, how can one have good skills? If he prepares breakfast for Grandmother Mu, what if his poor skills lead to a mistake? Grandmother Mu is old now. How could her health handle an accident? Saying that, I sighed again, putting on a fully altruistic look. I'm different. I'm young. I've already tasted enough bitterness in the past. I'm used to it, so let him use me for practice to get his hand in. I can even be the guinea pig. This time, even Peijuero's filter shattered. Such shameless words. I don't know how Xiao Chen could say them without batting an eye. Mu Xuan was almost driven to tears by what I said. Lu Monkey frowned deeply. This boy. His temper is too competitive. Grandmother Mu only said 1 sentence, yet you've talked back 10 sentences already. Aren't you afraid of making your grandmother sick with anger? Furthermore, the matter of Xiao Xuan, such a good thing has become distorted through your mouth. She looked at me with a face full of disapproval. I know you have resentment in your heart seeing Xiao Xuan enjoy happiness for all these years, taking what originally belonged to you. But Xiao Xuan was just a newborn back then. What could the boy have known? He's just as innocent as you are. Why do you have to target the boy like that? Xiao Xuan has a kind nature. He said he considers you his younger brother, so he definitely sincerely sees you as his own brother. Isn't it good to have another brother to love you? Why act like this? She shook her head, her face showing clear disappointment. In Peijuero's heart, she was choked with anger. She tried to restrain herself from exploding, but her expression had already become visibly ugly. Sister-in-law, you've misunderstood. Xiao Chen isn't targeting anyone. The boy just has a very straightforward personality. He doesn't know how to speak in circles, actually. There's no ill intent in his heart. Exactly. How could I have any ill intent, and I'm not targeting him either? My attitude towards him is much better than towards fourth sister. If you don't believe me, just ask him. It's precisely because I know he's also innocent that I didn't let my parents kick him out. Letting him continue staying at the Mu house as a young master, isn't this enough? I'm about to be moved to tears by my own kindness right now. I really haven't seen anyone as tolerant as me. My face clearly showed a look of total innocence. I've already gone to this extent, yet first aunt still thinks I'm bullying him. Do you want me to give up this identity to him as well? Should I just give my biological parents to him too? I intentionally emphasized the words biological parents. Lu Mongqi was rendered speechless. What more could she say? Perhaps because my face was so sincere, it made it impossible for Lu Mongqi to distinguish whether I said it on purpose or by accident. Grandmother Mu was equally choked with rage. She instinctively intended to use her elder status to suppress me, but I didn't give her a chance to open her mouth. Grandmother, are you also worried I'll bully Mu Xuan? I heard from Mom and Dad that everyone loves him very much. How about this? From now on, let him go and live with grandmother. Anyway, he's no longer a child now. There's no need for someone to watch over him all day. Living with grandmother gives him more chances to show filial piety, and he can even make breakfast for grandmother every day. I pretended to be cute, lightly shaking my head. This way he can be filial to grandmother, and no one has to worry about me bullying him. It's truly killing two birds with one stone. The entire dining table suddenly fell into dead silence. Grandmother Mu and Lu Mongqi stared at me with wide eyes while Pei Shuero didn't know what expression to make. As for Mu Xuan, of course he was terrified. Xiaochen, stop talking. Grandmother and first aunt didn't mean it that way. They were just too worried about you, but I haven't suffered any mistreatment at all. Mom, Dad, and sisters still treat me well as before. And of course, you haven't bullied me at all. Please don't take grandmother and first aunt's words to heart. If he moved in to live with grandmother, what would become of his reputation? Wouldn't his status become even more awkward? He is the son of the Mu family, and will be for the rest of his life. His eyes were full of pleading as he looked at the two elders. They truly loved him dearly, so they had to swallow their anger for his sake. The atmosphere at the dining table finally returned to normal. It's just that everyone felt they had lost their appetite. Of course, that person didn't include me. I ate extremely heartily, even eating one more bowl than usual. The millet porridge was cooked until thick and soft, eaten with pickled vegetables. It was truly light yet appetizing. Seeing me like this, those two elders felt as if a fire was burning in their hearts. On the third day, after first aunt's family and grandmother Mu left, I urged Mu Xuan to invite Jiang Yan over to play. Jiang Yan originally wanted to refuse, but thinking back to what happened in the hallway, he made up his mind to come to the Mu house as scheduled. Pei Shuero welcomed him very enthusiastically. She let Mu Xuan accompany his friend, while I didn't appear until a while later. The moment he saw me, a guilty Jiang Yan immediately became tense. He was still thinking of a way to avoid the Mu family, so he could talk to me privately, but I never follow the common sense. I jerked my chin towards Mu Yuwei and Mu Xuan. You two, please step away for a moment. I have something to discuss with this Mr. Jiang. Mu Xuan's face changed completely. Jiang Yan is his best friend, yet now I'm making him avoid his best friend. Mu Chen, what are you trying to do? If Jiang Yan has offended you in any way, just speak clearly. You can't invite someone to your house and then bully them like this. I glanced at Mu Yuwei with disdain. When you have nothing to do, use your brain more. That thing growing on you isn't just for decoration, and certainly not just to make you look a bit taller. Among the four Mu sisters, the other three all seem quite smart and very observant, so why is this one so different? Mu Yuwei was so angry she was speechless. She opened her mouth to say something more, but I raised my voice and called out, "Mom!" Mu Yuwei was startled, instinctively pressing her lips together. Pei Shuero heard the call and hurried out. Xiaochen, what is it, my son? Mom, can I take Mu Xuan's friend to play in the garden? Pei Shuero didn't find anything strange about it. On the contrary, she smiled and said, "Go ahead, but the sun is very strong right now. Don't let yourself get sunburned." Mu Xuan hurriedly added, "I'll go along too." He was really not at ease at all, always feeling that my inviting Jiang Yan over had another purpose. I never save face for anyone, so I directly refused. "No need. Well, I'll be back in just a moment. You stay here and keep her company." I glanced at Mu Yuwei, then said mockingly, "She specifically stayed home to keep you company, just to prevent others from bullying you." After saying that, I turned around and walked straight away, not worrying at all whether Jiang Yan would follow. Mu Yuwei's face was full of embarrassment, further confirming in her heart that this biological younger brother is an extremely scheming person. Just look at the words he just said. Isn't he intentionally snitching to Mom, implying that her suspecting him of bullying Xiao Xuan is the reason she's staying cooped up at home? Such a schemer. "What do you want with me?" Jiang Yan looked at me with a wary gaze after asking. He didn't wait for my answer but hurriedly continued. I don't know what you're up to. I didn't offend you in the hallway that day. Is it just because I happened to glance at you? I interrupted him. What is your relationship with the person who fell? Before it happened, did you all have contact with each other, or... I slowly turned around, tilting my head slightly, my clear eyes seeming as if they could see through everything. Actually, that matter is related to you all. I didn't. Jiangyan's expression changed violently. He screamed his denial in a shrill voice, but in the depths of his eyes, he couldn't help but reveal a flicker of fear and panic. Whether it's nonsense or not, you know better than anyone. That was an accident that was hushed up. She lost her life because she was implicated. Think about it, if I go and report it. These words from Jiangyan revealed important information. I spread my hands wide. What evidence do I need? I just need to say it out loud, and someone will naturally go look for proof. I wonder if Mr. Jiang here reveals such a thing. Will your reputation be affected at all? Are you threatening me? Don't think you'll be afraid of you just because you're a young master. Compared to Xiao Xuan, what do you even count for? Do you think you can replace Xiao Xuan's position? Dream on. Xiao Xuan has lived at the Mu house for over a decade. You'll never match the bond between him and the family. I looked at him with a strange expression. Why would I compare myself with Mu Xuan? He's an adopted son, and I'm the biological son. Why would a biological son need to replace an adopted one? My mind isn't broken. Besides, let me correct you a bit. I'm not threatening you, but rather reminding you. If you don't want others to know, don't do it. That was a living person's life. Do you think concluding the case means everything is fine? I spoke suggestively and then turned around to leave. My wanting to ask clearly was just to save time, even if I didn't say it. When that girl's resentment becomes strong enough, my status will cause her to come looking for me herself. Jiangyan basically didn't care about those words. Mu Xuan was about to ask me what I had actually said to make Jiangyan storm off in a rage like that, and whether I had truly bullied him. But looking at my expression, he felt that if he dared to utter those words, I would definitely retort in a way that would make him just want to find a hole to crawl into and be done with it. I was still wondering when the matter would come to light. Unexpectedly, it happened faster than I had anticipated. Seeing the commotion online, I felt it was only natural. I watch TV every day, so I've learned quite a few things. Everything in this society is fast-paced. As long as something is put on the internet, it's more effective than any other form of propaganda. I find this method is indeed the fastest. Perhaps because she happened to encounter it at the mall, Peizueru couldn't help but sigh when she saw the news. I originally thought it was just a simple accident. I didn't expect the matter to cause such a stir. If what her parents said is true, then it truly is beyond tragic. That girl who fell was only 25 years old, still so young. I heard she was also an only child, and yet she lost her life just like that. No wonder her parents can't accept it at all. They're determined to get to the bottom of it. If something so suspicious happened to my son, I would definitely go crazy too. Thinking of this, Peizueru hurriedly spat, in her mind, to ward off bad luck. She just recently found Xiao Chen again. The days ahead are still very long. Mother and son still have plenty of time to be together. The parents of the deceased revealed to the media their daughter was originally well-behaved and quiet, didn't have many friends, and their family background was just ordinary. She never spent money extravagantly normally. Unlike others her age who liked shopping, she very rarely bought things for herself. She gave all her wages to them for household expenses, hardly keeping anything for herself. Every day she simply went to work and came home. Yet the accident site was a luxury mall, basically not a place where she had the means to consume. That day before leaving the house, she had shown some unusual signs. At the time they didn't think much of it, never imagining it would end this way. Initially they thought it was an accident, but discovering a secret when clearing her belongings changed everything. Their daughter had been treated unfairly, so they suspect the cause of death wasn't an accident. They want to demand the truth and justice for their child. Mu Xuan's gaze kept avoiding, darting incessantly. He didn't dare to look directly at the parents on the TV screen. His hands on his knees kept intertwining and rubbing continuously. His face turned pale in a forced manner. I noticed his expression change as soon as he saw the news, a very strange look. Thinking of the relationship between him and Jiangyan, an idea suddenly occurred to me. I suddenly spoke up. What are you panicking about? Did you know the deceased? Or have you done something shady and dishonorable? Mu Xuan seemed to be startled with horror. He suddenly raised his head to glare at me, then raised his voice shrilly to retort. Xiao Chen, what nonsense are you talking? No matter how dissatisfied you are with me, you're not allowed to speak such nonsense. Peizueru was stunned for a moment first, immediately after she was startled by the shrill scream. Xiao Xuan, do you know this poor girl? Could she be the family of your classmate? This is not entirely impossible. Xiao Xuan attended a private high school, where the tuition is extremely expensive. Every year the school admits students with outstanding achievements, who usually come from ordinary backgrounds and cannot afford the tuition but have very high scores. Maybe she is indeed a relative of some classmate. Mu Xuan's face changed slightly once more. If you have no ghost in your heart, then what is it that you can't say? Both you and that Mr. Jiang are very strange, always avoiding the subject whenever it's mentioned. That guilty look is as if you want to write directly, on your face, that it's related to you. You've seen the news as well. The matter is already in an uproar. It will be easily clarified with just an investigation. Better to speak out clearly early on, so we can find a way to solve it together. Pei Shuiruo didn't believe it at first, but seeing the expression of her adopted son, her heart suddenly skipped a beat. Xiao Xuan. Mom, I really didn't. Mu Xuan was all in a fluster. Xiao Chen may not know what kind of person I am, but surely you know too, don't you, Mom? I'm the son you've raised for more than a decade. Seeing him put on that aggrieved look again, I just wanted to roll my eyes in contempt. Stop acting. You're just giving yourself away. Even if you weren't the one who did it, you're definitely involved. Let's see just how much longer they can hold out. I stood up and headed straight upstairs. Mu Xuan's face flushed with a mixture of rage and humiliation, trembling with unbearable fury as tears began to stream down his face. Mother, you saw that. Ever since Chen returned, I have done nothing but yield to him at every turn. I know I have no right to compete with him, nor should I ever try to. I truly wanted us to live in harmony, to fulfill our filial duties to you and Father together. But he always looks at me with such cold, hostile eyes, criticizing every single thing I do. Today, Jiang Yan stormed off in a rage, and I honestly have no idea what he's done. Please, Mother, tell me, what must I do to finally satisfy him? Or maybe, I should just move out? Even though I haven't come of age yet, I believe I can find a way to support myself. You and Father have raised me all these years, and for that grace I am eternally grateful. I couldn't possibly ask for anything more. It was as if he were purging all the terror, anxiety, resentment, and bitterness buried deep within him. He buried his face in his hands, weeping uncontrollably. Pei Shuiruo watched him, her heart aching with sorrow. Both were her children, and she loved them both dearly. Chen was her biological son, so of course her heart went out to him. But Xuan had been by her side for over a decade. He wasn't blood, yet he was no different from her own. She wasn't naive enough to expect them to suddenly be overcome with brotherly love. All she wanted was for them to live in peace. Besides, Chen had already stated that he didn't mind if Xuan stayed. The problem was that Chen was simply too blunt, lacking even a shred of tact. Family could overlook such sharp words, but how would he survive in the real world? The more she pondered, the further her thoughts drifted from reality. Mu Xuan kept on sobbing his grievances, but when no comfort came, he choked back a sob and peeked up through his tears, only to feel a deeper surge of resentment. How could Mother be daydreaming at a time like this? This time he was truly wounded to the core. The moment I stepped into my room, I sensed something was terribly wrong. With a subtle flick of my wrist, I cast a barrier and commanded, "Show yourself." After a long silence, a faint, translucent figure tremulously drifted into view. The moment my gaze swept over it, the figure recoiled, cowering in the corner. Even as a ghost, she's still such a pathetic coward. No wonder she was tormented by those spoiled rich brats. I seriously doubt that someone this spineless could ever become a formidable spirit. What use could this shadow possibly be? Could she truly be the key to my destiny? I harbored deep, profound doubts. How did you manage to find this place? Speak, or it'll cast you out into the void. The figure shivered in terror and quickly stammered. I am Wen Yimo. A few days ago I met my end at the shopping mall. As she spoke, her voice sank into a heavy whisper. It had taken her many agonizing days to accept this reality. It was unbelievable, yet undeniably true. The moment she plunged from that height, she already knew there was no surviving that fall. Even if she had somehow lived, she would have been broken beyond repair. Her family could never have afforded the medical bills, so maybe death was a mercy after all. In that instant, she didn't know whether to feel lucky or cursed. And so, what do you want? Revenge? Wen Yimo stared blankly. Revenge? Can I really have my revenge? Then why seek me out if not for that? If you didn't hunger for vengeance, you wouldn't still be lingering in the human realm. I couldn't leave my parents behind. Your parents. I'm sure you've seen them. You were their only child, and now that you're suddenly gone, they certainly won't let this rest. From the look of things, they're ready to fight a life-or-death battle for the truth. Wen Yimo fell silent for a long time before murmuring, They are no match for those people. If you listened closely, her voice was still trembling. I think I finally understood. It wasn't that she lacked hatred or the desire for revenge, but that she had been crushed and bullied for far too long. That trauma had been etched into her very soul. Even as a ghost, she remained terrified of the living. It reflected how deeply she had tasted the bitter weight of absolute power. Can you help me? I know you're different from the rest. You can definitely help me, can't you? She suddenly looked up, her eyes swimming with desperate plea. She had no idea who the boy before her was or why he alone could see her. But since he saw her and didn't flinch, he had to be someone truly extraordinary. It felt as if a thread of fate were guiding her through the dark, so he could definitely save her. Couldn't he? A faint smile played on my lips. And how exactly do you want me to help you? The question caught her completely off guard. True, how could I help? She didn't even have a plan for herself, so what was she even asking for? Did she not feel the sting of hatred? Of course she did, for her death was no mere accidental fall, it was the result of a violent conflict that had been buried. When the tragedy struck, beyond the sheer terror and despair, there was an unquenchable fire of resentment. Why did they treat her like that? Just because she stood her ground against those arrogant rich kids who were bullying others, she had the courage to stop them and speak up. So why did she have to pay with such a cruel and unjust end? She used to work at a milk tea shop. Those spoiled brats were regulars there. Then they started causing trouble in the shop. When she tried to stop them, they showered her with insults and threats. In a moment of pure frustration, she lied and told them she was recording everything, threatening to post it online if they didn't stop. That finally made them back off and leave people alone. She thought it was just a minor incident in her day, never imagining she had just poked a nest of monsters. From that day on, her living nightmare of retaliation began. At school, they systematically isolated and ostracized her, manipulating others to spread lies and slander, humiliating her over and over again. When she tried to quit her job, they turned their threats toward the shop owner. They even tracked down her home address, terrifying her parents. They stuffed her desk with filth and trash, gleefully shredded her exam prep materials, a never-ending stream of petty, malicious schemes. She believed that if she just endured it until they got bored, it would end, but instead, she ended up paying with her very life. After everything, her death was dismissed as a mere accidental fall, the ugly truth buried and conveniently forgotten. The more she dwelled on it, the more her vengeful aura flared. The air in the room grew heavy and cold, shimmering as the curtains began to sway of their own accord. The tassels on the lampshade trembled, emitting sharp clattering sounds. I want them to feel exactly what I felt. I want them to face the divine retribution they deserve. I rested my chin on my hand, considering. Deserved retribution? You mean throwing them in prison? That shouldn't be too difficult. The hatred within Wen Yimo flared white-hot. Her timidness vanished, replaced by a dark, chilling gloom. Her features twisted, distorted by pure resentment. Prison? Their families would never allow them to rot behind bars, and even if they were jailed, it would be for a mere blink of an eye. Is my life worth only a few paltry years of their freedom? Is my existence that cheap to them? She spat out the words. Then how about a life for a life? What do you think? I spoke casually as if it were the simplest thing in the world. My words left Wen Yimo stunned. The churning malice surrounding her stalled for a heartbeat. If that's possible, then of course that would be ideal. But, can you actually do it? She asked, her voice cautious. If it were possible, it would be perfect. Why should she be the one to vanish, while they live on as if nothing ever happened? Is death supposed to be the end of the debt? Legal justice alone can never truly balance the scales. I offered a slim smile. Naturally, I can. A flash of shock and desperate joy flickered in Wen Yimo's eyes. Can you really help me get my revenge? Once I help you, can you leave this world in peace? She nodded, then hesitated, her expression clouding with profound loneliness and grief. I can let go of the hate, but I can't let go of my parents. I was all they had. I pondered for a moment before saying, your parents aren't that old yet. Perhaps they could have another child. She never in a million years expected to hear those words from me. She thought about her parents' age and realized it was indeed a possibility. If that happened, she could finally find some semblance of peace. Then, when will you help me, and what price must I pay? My gaze shifted slightly as I wore a knowing smile. Don't worry. While I don't work for free, I won't ask for anything beyond your means. We'll settle the payment once the job is done. I am no ordinary man, and what I desire is certainly not of this mortal coil. Wen Yimo nodded without hesitation then. Be patient. This requires the perfect moment. She nodded, then suddenly remembered something and asked anxiously, can you also protect my parents for me? I belong to the underworld. I'm not some deity from the heavens. I only deal with the dead. The living are not my concern. When I met her request with silence, her eyes rimmed with red. If you can't, then never mind. Seeing her so pitiable, I found myself saying, rest easy. Your parents will be just fine. This whole mess has already caused such a stir. If anything else happens now, it would be beyond salvation. Mother, I'm heading out for a while, I said to Pei Shuero. Pei Shuero blinked in surprise. Heading out? Where are you going? Let me have the driver take you. No need, I'll just catch a cab. Having a driver follow me would only complicate things. But Chen, since you've returned, you haven't gone out on your own once. You aren't familiar with the streets of Haicheng yet? What if you get lost out there all by yourself? I could see right through her anxiety. Mother, it's really okay. I know my way around. Besides, when I get in a car, I just give the address. There's nothing to worry about. That still won't do. The world is full of wicked people. I know what will do. You'll have your fourth sister go with you. You can do whatever you need to, and she can handle the errands for you. She immediately sent someone to drag Mu Yuwei out of bed. The second Mu Yuwei heard her mother's plan, she exploded. "Mother, I am his older sister. I am not his servant. If you're so worried about him, just send the driver with him. Why on earth should I have to tag along?" "I'm not going," she screamed, shooting me a look that could kill. I gave her a sidelong glance, my expression one of utter disdain. "Do you honestly think I want you there? It's only because Mother is worried that she's forcing you to come." "Mother, look at him!" Mu Yuwei pointed a furious finger right at my face. Pei Shueru slapped her hand away. "I don't care if you want to or not. You're going. You claim to be Qian's older sister, so helping your brother with a few things shouldn't be too much to ask. Why must you be so difficult? What are you trying to pull?" Pei Shueru's face darkened, and she fixed her daughter with a stern, icy glare. The sheer intensity of that gaze withered Mu Yuwei, and she instantly deflated, not daring to utter another word. "It's settled then. Eat your breakfast quickly. Chen needs to leave soon." With tears of frustration in her eyes, she went to gather her things. "Where on earth are you planning to go? In the car?" Mu Yuwei asked with a face like a thundercloud as she drove. "Since I have free labor, it would be a waste not to use it." I gave the order casually. "Just drive straight. It'll tell you where to turn," treating her exactly like a common chauffeur. Mu Yuwei was so livid she was seeing stars, but there wasn't a single thing she could do about it. She followed my directions, driving in circles all over the city. The further we went, the more alien the surroundings became, and the roads grew increasingly narrow and cramped. Even she began to feel a sense of unease. Despite living in Haicheng for so many years, she never knew such a place even existed. Obeying, Mu Yuwei pulled the car over to the curb. We stopped in front of a dilapidated apartment complex. Staring out from the driver's seat, a profound sense of suspicion welled up within her. "All right, wait for me here." I stepped out and slammed the door shut. Leaving her with that single command, I walked away. I didn't give Mu Yuwei even a moment to ask a single question. She had intended to find out what I was up to, but my dismissive attitude made her blood boil. In her fury, she decided to just let me go and wash her hands of it. I made my way easily into the apartment complex. Without a moment's pause, I headed directly toward one of the buildings. The old complex was barren, with only a few withered trees, the outer walls peeling and stained, and there wasn't even an elevator in sight. The stairs were deeply scarred by the passage of time. I climbed the stairs with a steady pace, all the way to the 4th floor. Making a sharp turn, I headed down the hall to the left. The moment I reached the landing, the faint sound of weeping reached my ears. If my guess was correct, it was coming from the Wen residence. Standing before the Wen's door, I reached out and knocked. I needed to find an assistant for myself as soon as possible. As the young master of the City of the Dead, should I really be doing all these trivial tasks myself? It simply wouldn't befit my station. The sounds within the house abruptly stopped, followed by the hurried sound of footsteps. Then, a voice called out from behind the door, "Who is it? I'm a friend of Wen Yimo." Silence fell within for a long moment, and then the door cracked open just an inch. Someone was peering at me through that tiny gap. Seeing how young I was, their guard lowered just a fraction. "Are you one of Yimo's co-workers?" I gave a slight nod. Only then did they fully open the door to let me in. Once inside, I didn't beat around the bush. I know when Yimo was murdered. When Yimo's parents were still in their prime, but since the tragedy, they had withered away. Their once dark hair was now shot through with strands of silver. The wrinkles on their faces had deepened significantly. Their eyes were etched with grief, suffering, and a simmering hatred they struggled to contain. "How do you know? How could you possibly know Yimo was murdered? Do you know something? Please tell us everything, Mrs. Wen." In her fragile state, became incredibly agitated the moment I spoke. She grabbed my hands with a crushing grip. "I can see Wen Yimo, and I can help both of you." The Wen stood there, utterly bewildered, not understanding a word I meant. Their daughter was gone, so how could this boy say he could see her, even though they had refused to cremate her in their search for the truth, leaving her body in the morgue instead? Did this boy really mean he'd snuck into the morgue? Absurd thoughts began to swirl through their minds. Wild and irrational ideas took root in their heads. "I can see the soul of your daughter, and I can help you achieve your heart's desire." I made my declaration firmly. Mrs. Wen's sobbing ceased instantly, and she stared at me with tear-filled eyes, her face a mask of shock. Their deepest wish, of course, was to unmask the person who killed their daughter and see them brought to justice. But no, even that wasn't enough. A few miserable years in prison could never possibly make up for her loss. How could a prison sentence compare to the precious life of their Yimo? Whoever took Yimo's life must be forced to pay a truly devastating price. Deep in Mrs. Wen's eyes, a torrent of absolute hatred surged. "Whatever it is you desire, I can help you obtain it. However, you must also pay a price for my services." I made my terms crystal clear. Aside from merit, I also needed to collect the most sincere and pure emotions, the ultimate goodness, beauty, and righteousness of the human world. The gate of rebirth is the path to new life. Life signifies a beginning, the presence of hope and joy. Death signifies an ending, the presence of despair and pain. Life and death are but a cycle of reincarnation. Within that cycle there exists endless selfishness, greed, falseness, and malice. I collect these to cleanse the vengeful aura, maintaining the balance of the spiritual realm. After hearing my words, Mrs. Wynn didn't hesitate for a single second. No matter what you want, as long as you can truly help me, I will give you everything I have. Even if you demand my very life, I will give it. I gave a small, subtle smile. Things haven't reached such a dire point yet. I recounted the entire truth as I had learned it from Yimo, telling them every detail from start to finish. I didn't hold a single thing back. After hearing it, the couple once again burst into heart-wrenching, agonized sobs. Witnessing that, all I could do was let out a soft, low sigh. Birth, aging, sickness, and death are truly the hardest things for mortals to accept in this world. Mrs. Wen, still weeping, suddenly fell to her knees, kowtowing before me with a forceful thud. I want them to pay. I want them to live in regret for the rest of their miserable lives. Beyond their bone-deep resentment, the couple was also consumed by an endless tide of remorse and regret. Why hadn't they noticed something was wrong with their daughter sooner? If they had only known the dire situation she was in, they surely would have told her to quit. They could have moved away and started a new life somewhere else. Though Mr. Wen tried his best to stay strong, tears began to stream down his face as well. He covered his face with one hand, unable to mask the overwhelming tide of grief and regret. I feel the same. I want them to pay the ultimate price. I told them to wait for my news, and then turned to leave the building. Through the car window, I could see Mu Yuwei fast asleep. Her mouth was even hanging slightly open, showing just how deeply she was out. The corner of my mouth twitched involuntarily. And she expects me to respect her as an older sister? More like she should be my younger sister. How irritating. I was about to tap on the glass to wake her, but I stopped myself halfway. I'd been wondering how to give Mu Yuwei the slip, since having her tag along would only make my work harder. Since she's already out like a light, I might as well just leave her there and save myself the trouble. And with that, I turned and walked away. Inside the car, Mu Yuwei remained in a dead sleep. Fulfilling the Wen's heart's desire wasn't actually that difficult. With my abilities, I could easily strike without anyone ever knowing, teaching those people a lesson they'd never forget. But doing that wouldn't align with what they truly desired deep within their hearts. Therefore, the first step remained exposing the hidden truth. Reflecting on the sheer injustice Yimo had endured, even I couldn't help but let out a weary sigh. If this matter wasn't handled properly, who would ever dare to stand up and do good again? It truly is a sign of moral decay. This society is developing at breakneck speed, yet human nature hasn't improved along with the economy. If anything, it's grown more selfish and narrow-minded. Perhaps it's this very society, so full of material temptation, that has unearthed the ugliest, most loathsome aspects hidden within the depths of the human soul. Suddenly, I recalled my former self. Back when I was around the same age as these children, I was already a man who stood tall between heaven and earth. I could have started a family then and shouldered the weight of my clan and country. My expression suddenly hardened slightly, flickering with a moment of confusion and unease. Those events from so long ago. How long has it been since I last spared them a thought? It's truly been far too long, so long that even I have begun to forget it all. I wasn't born into this role as the young master. In my faded memories, before I became the young master, I was just another ordinary mortal in this human world. It was only after death that I entered the city of the dead. So much time has passed since then, that I no longer recall exactly how I came to be the one who rules over this city of the dead. The thought vanished as quickly as it had appeared, and my silhouette gradually faded away into nothingness. On the street, people moved about as if everything were normal, each rushing to tend to their own affairs. No one suspected that the young man standing right beside them had just vanished into thin air in the blink of an eye. I thought I'd have everything settled quickly, but I never expected the work to stretch on until the dead of night. I was so engrossed that I completely forgot Yuwei was even there. Once everything was finished, I headed straight back home. The moment I walked through the door, I felt that the atmosphere in the living room was incredibly tense. I was about to speak, but before I could utter a word, Peichuero rushed over and pulled me into a crushing embrace. Her voice was thick with pure, unadulterated terror. "You're finally home. You scared me nearly to death. I was so afraid that something terrible had happened to you." Father Mu's face was also etched with deep concern, but upon seeing me, he let out a visible sigh of relief, repeating, "It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back." He was truly scared out of his wits, fearing his son had run away for good. I blinked in surprise, taking a moment to process what was happening. Just as I was about to offer an explanation, Mu Yuwei, who had been lectured all night, finally reached her breaking point. After a day of holding it in, she burst into a rage and shouted right in my face, Mu Chen, have you lost your mind? Why didn't you say a word about where you were going? Do you know everyone thought something had happened to you? Do you know the whole family has been looking for you all day long? I was shouted at until my shoulders hunched, feeling a bit of a guilty conscience. Shut your mouth. Pei Shuero hugged me tightly, turning to give her fourth daughter a sharp glare. You must have provoked Xiao Chen, which is why he left without saying a word. You're always picking on Xiao Chen. How many times have I told you? Xiao Chen is your biological brother, your own flesh and blood. Mu Yuwei was so incensed by her mother's unreasonable words that she felt like she was about to explode. Mom, can you please be reasonable? I clearly didn't do anything today, Mu Yuwei screamed. Seeing that they were about to have a massive row, I quickly intervened. Mom, please don't be angry. Let me explain first. Today's matter really has nothing to do with fourth sister. She really didn't do anything. She didn't even argue with me once. Then why did you leave her behind and go off on your own? You haven't been here for long. You're not familiar with this city yet. It's very easy to get lost without someone to accompany you. And more importantly, Xiao Chen doesn't know how to use a phone very well. If you get lost, you wouldn't even know how to use the map. I answered honestly. I went to handle some business, so I told fourth sister to wait for me in the car. When I finished and came back, I saw she had fallen fast asleep. I thought she must have woken up too early and was sleep-deprived, so I wanted to let her sleep a bit longer. You're better off not giving that explanation. Did she do it on purpose? I didn't care about her fierce gaze at all and continued speaking truthfully. So then I just left. I figured I'd finish my work and be back quickly. Maybe she wouldn't even be awake by the time I returned. I didn't expect it to take longer than planned, which is why it dragged on until now. I didn't necessarily want Mu Yuwei to get scolded. I also didn't expect things to turn out like this. Then why did you keep ignoring your phone? Mu Yuwei continued her interrogation. I reached into my cloth bag, pulled out a mobile phone, and looked it over, with a completely bewildered face. I didn't hear it ring. This phone was bought for me by Pei Shuero, and she gave me detailed instructions before I went out today, but I truly didn't hear a sound. Mu Yuwei snatched the phone away, lit up the screen, and was instantly so exasperated she started laughing, shoving the phone in my face. Don't you know how to check it? Your phone is on silent mode. I looked at the phone, blinking innocently. I really don't know how to check it. I've never used a phone before. How was I supposed to know a phone could be set to make no sound? Mu Yuwei was about to continue being difficult, but Pei Shuero curled her finger and gave her a sharp rap on the head, making her cry out in pain as she clutched her forehead. If you hadn't fallen asleep in the car, would Xiao Chen have had to go do his business alone, out of consideration for not wanting to wake you? So in the end, it's all your fault. I told you to go help him, but look at you, lying in the car sleeping like the dead. Your allowance for this month is completely cut off, Pei Shuero declared flatly. What? Cut off my allowance? Only 3 days of the month have passed. After saying that, Pei Shuero looked at her other children and issued a warning. If anyone dares to secretly provide for her, I'll cut off your money next month. As for Mu Wanting, she glanced at her eldest daughter. If you dare give Yuwei money, I'll immediately arrange blind dates for you. Mu Wanting's expression shifted, and she quickly replied seriously, Mom, please don't worry. I won't do that, and I'll even keep an eye on the others to make sure they don't provide for fourth sister. Big sister Mu Yu, we wailed piteously. Mu Wanting looked at her fourth sister with a gaze full of both helplessness and pity. Fourth sister, don't blame me for being heartless. Better you than me, little sister. Where did you and Xiao Chen go today? Downstairs, Mu Xuan didn't dare to confront Pei Shuero. After everyone had returned to their rooms, he secretly snuck out and went to Mu Yuwei's place. After comforting her for a while, he asked as if out of curiosity. Mentioning me made Mu Yuwei's heart fill with rage. This biological brother was surely born to be her nemesis, a real debt collector. But when facing Mu Xuan, she still patiently recounted everything. But where I went and what I did after that, she didn't know either. Mu Xuan frowned upon hearing this. Not to mention Mu Yuwei, even he didn't know where that place was. People like them usually only frequented high-end places. Such dilapidated areas were naturally places they would never set foot in, much less bother to learn about. He knitted his brows in thought for a while, but couldn't think of anything and had to drop it. After returning to his room, for some reason, he just couldn't let the matter go. Just then, Zhang Yan called, and after chatting for a bit, he remembered the matter of his best friend coming over, so he couldn't help but grumble a few things to his friend. Unexpectedly, Zhang Yan cried out in horror upon hearing it. Did he go to Wen Yimo's house? The moment the name Wen Yimo was mentioned, Mu Xuan couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. The hand holding the phone tightened. What did he go to Wen Yimo's house for? He doesn't even know Wen Yimo. Zhang Yan gritted his teeth, and having no other choice, had to recount what happened that day. Mu Xuan gasped in shock, his limbs feeling weak. He didn't expect Zhang Yan to have been there that day as well. Yan, did you do anything? Mu Xuan felt a lump in his throat. After asking this, his heart was in his mouth and his mind began to race. If he was truly implicated in this matter, what would he do? Although he wasn't present that day, currently those incidents of bullying others had been reported by his parents if a thorough investigation was conducted. But he soon regained his composure, repeatedly reassuring himself in his heart. I've never bullied Wen Yimo. At most it was just. Mu Xuan quickly recalled his past actions, checking if he had left any obvious loopholes or if there was anything others could use against him. Xuan, are you even listening to me? Zhang Yan had been talking for a while with no reply, so he called out curiously. Mu Xuan snapped out of it, and stabilizing his emotions, he said, I'm listening. Yan, what do you plan to do about this? Wen Yimo's parents don't seem like they intend to let this go if they... Zhang Yan quickly interrupted him. Nothing's going to happen. Whether it's the school or us, the parents on both sides don't want this blown out of proportion. In the end, at most, a few kids will be pulled out to properly admit fault, apologize to them, and then pay some compensation to settle it. After all, it was mostly those university students who did it. We didn't really do anything. Not to mention the parents of each kid. Even the school needs to save face. Mu Xuan knitted his brows tightly, feeling that things weren't as simple as that. The mall's surveillance cameras. Zhang Yan didn't seem worried about that at all. They were wiped clean long ago. No one will be able to find anything. His father has good relationships with everyone there. Deleting the footage is just a phone call away. Even without those connections, I'm sure no one would dare offend the Zhang family. Right now, I'm just worried Mu Chen knows something. I ran into him in the hallway that day when I was in a rush and the way he looked at me then. Plus, that day he invited me to your house. The things he said, it's as if he's already certain about something.
This was exactly why Zhang Yan kept feeling uneasy. And even when facing Mu Xuan, Zhang Yan didn't dare to reveal too much. Since Zhang Yan put it that way, Mu Xuan couldn't help but recall the news that day and the words I had said to him. His handsome face immediately turned pale. Perhaps I really did see who committed that foul act. Even if I didn't see their faces clearly, I must have definitely seen them bullying her. If he were to speak out about this. Whenever he thought of the consequences, Mu Xuan felt restless. He forced himself to calm down. Yan, it's very likely that Mu Chen really did see something. That day he even asked me if I was involved in Wen Yimo's case. But it seems he hasn't mentioned this to my parents yet. Hurry and find a way to notify the others so they can fend for themselves. Mu Xuan's words made Zhang Yan even more panicked. He hastily ended the call and immediately called his usual group of friends. Mu Xuan gritted his teeth, and remembering past events, he couldn't help but feel a bit of regret. If Wen Yimo wanted to help that poor soul, she should have just done it. Helping for a moment isn't helping for a lifetime. Why did those guys have to go against her like that? At the time, he just found her attitude, that whole persona, to be such an eyesore, acting like she was some knight of justice, while they were no better than devils. So he had said a few things to incite his classmates. Initially, he just wanted to teach her a lesson, so she would stop meddling in other people's business. But he truly didn't expect things to escalate to such a terrible degree as they have today. The more he thought about it, the more he secretly blamed those people. He told them to retaliate just a little bit, but they were just too much. They even got addicted to it, and wouldn't let Wen Yimo go. Wasn't it just because they saw a soft target and wanted to squeeze it? Well, look what happened now. They squeezed it until it was completely crushed. And then there was Wen Yimo. If she hadn't said she'd filmed it from the start and threatened to expose them, then he wouldn't have momentarily. Mu Xuan began to deliberate over my situation. He thought maybe I had seen the incident at the mall, but there was no way I could know the full story. I didn't even know how to use a phone, so how could I know anything? His thoughts were optimistic, but the reality was incredibly harsh. By the third day, the internet was flooded with hot news stories. What made him even more panicked and terrified was that the surveillance footage that had supposedly been erased long ago was suddenly leaked in its entirety all at once. Even the previous scenes of harassment and humiliation against Wen Yimo were hunted down and dug up by people. He came downstairs and saw that, sure enough, I was sitting on the sofa again, eyes glued to the TV screen, and what's more, the news was reporting on this exact case. Seeing those familiar images inside, he almost stopped breathing, unable to catch his breath, and his legs suddenly went weak. While Mu Xuan's heart was pounding with anxiety, Pei Shuero happened to walk in. Seeing his face deathly pale as he leaned against the staircase railing, with an expression that clearly showed something was wrong, she hurriedly asked, Xuan, what's wrong? Why do you look so pale? Are you sick? Her voice caught my attention, and I turned my head to look, meeting Mu Xuan's panic-stricken eyes. Thinking of something, I let out a slight, meaningful smile. Mom is asking you something. Mu Xuan's lips trembled for a while. Mom, I'm fine. Pei Shuero looked at him with a strange expression. After seeing the news report I was watching, she asked with concern, Xiao Chen, you seem very interested in this news. Is there a reason for it? I answered very straightforwardly. Weren't you and Dad planning to send me to this school? Then I definitely need to learn a bit about the people and events associated with this school. Pei Shuiru froze, and only then did she suddenly realize a problem. That's right. If the students of this school could do such a thing and even dared to bully people outside the school, then what about the students inside the school? If Xiao Chen goes to a school like that,
if anything happens. Pei Shuiru didn't dare to think any further. Regardless of the fact that Mr. Mu had just walked out the door, she intended to make a phone call immediately. No, you can't go to this school, and Xuan too. You have to transfer schools as well. Studying at a school like that, where even safety isn't guaranteed, then what's the point of studying? I'll find another school for both of you. Mu Yuwei was stunned. Why was she suddenly talking about transferring schools? He never had any intention of transferring. He was already too familiar with his current school. His friends and social circles were all here, moving to another place out of the blue. Moreover, they were already halfway through their senior year and transferring at this time. Would they even be able to take the college entrance exams? Mu Yuwei was about to say something, but he knew full well there was a high probability he wouldn't be able to dissuade his mother. So he turned his gaze toward me, hoping I would speak up and persuade her. As for which school to attend, I didn't care at all. It didn't matter to me. Therefore, I didn't even bother to give him a single glance. Mu Yuwei could only watch blankly as his mother made the call. After the footage of Wen Yimo's incident was released, the involved parties handled it quite quickly. The school immediately issued an apology promising to strengthen moral education for the students. The bubble tea shop owner also cried piteously. Most of the students involved came forward to apologize. Before the camera, with tears and snot streaming down their faces, they looked as though they were incredibly remorseful. In my room, Wen Yimo gnashed her teeth, staring intently at those who were apologizing in the video. They don't have a shred of sincerity. They don't feel guilty at all. I nodded slightly. Exactly. Most of them don't sincerely admit their mistakes, much less feel anything resembling regret. If this matter hadn't been exposed, if netizens hadn't reacted so strongly and weren't relentlessly demanding explanations and condemning them, if public opinion hadn't made such a fuss, then neither they nor their parents would have ever apologized, and they certainly wouldn't have cared about it. Regret over a commoner's death? Once someone is dead, they're dead. What else is there to discuss? Others might not see it, but I can. They say these words, appearing sincerely remorseful on the surface, but deep in their eyes, it's clear they don't care at all, and even harbor anger and hatred. Naturally, they hate the people who forced them into this. To them, this whole thing is just incredibly humiliating. Because to them, Wen Yimo's life isn't worth as much as their own reputation. Wen Yimo was filled with resentment during her lifetime, along with deep confusion and incomprehension. She truly couldn't understand what she had done wrong in the end. Could her kindness and sense of justice be wrong? She was just kindly helping others, yet she was isolated and excluded by them for no reason. These people relied on their family backgrounds to exert pressure and destroyed her peaceful life. On the day the dispute occurred at the mall, she accidentally fell from the upper floor. With a thud, everything came to an end. Now they say they've realized their mistakes, begging everyone to give them a chance. But who will give her a chance? They didn't give her any chance back then. The more she thought about it, the more Wen Yimo's suppressed resentment showed signs of becoming uncontrollable. The temperature in the room dropped significantly at once, and gloomy gusts of wind blew through, making the furniture shake violently. I looked up at the swaying ceiling light and quickly spoke up to calm her emotions. Let me help you vent your anger yourself. As if a pause button had just been pressed, all the noise in the room fell silent instantly. Let me vent my anger myself? No, I have no way of getting close to them. Wen Yimo frowned. She naturally wanted to take revenge herself, but for some reason, she couldn't get near, only able to watch from a distance. Whenever she got too close, she would be blocked immediately. Otherwise, she would have torn them apart long ago. You might not have a way, but that doesn't mean I don't. Since they've acted against their consciences, it's not strange for a ghost to come knocking at midnight, I explained calmly. Perhaps due to a guilty conscience after Wen Yimo died, a few of them were truly scared out of their wits, so they started wearing talismans. Especially those who directly caused her fall. Though they quickly acted as if nothing had happened, they still felt a bit guilty deep down, always carrying a consecrated jade pendant with them. Wen Yimo had a gentle temperament when she was alive, so she couldn't immediately become a vengeful spirit after death. Thus, the fact that she couldn't get close to those people was not surprising at all. However, those things have no effect on me whatsoever. Wen Yimo was instantly revitalized. If it's possible, then that would naturally be the best. But there's one point you must remember carefully. You must not directly harm anyone. Sometimes death is not revenge, but a release. If you carry the burden of taking a life, you won't be able to smoothly reincarnate. I advised her extremely seriously. Wen Yimo was a kind person who enjoyed helping others when she was alive, but unfortunately met with an unexpected accident. If nothing goes wrong, she will have a good next life, but if she commits a murderous act, the situation will be entirely different. There's no need to ruin your own future happiness because of these evil people. Wen Yimo bit her lip, feeling somewhat unwilling. A moment later, she nodded. All right, I won't take their lives. I want them to live forever in the shadows of fear. I cast a glowing talisman, which slowly descended and attached itself to Wen Yimo, vanishing instantly without a trace. Before Wen Yimo could even process it, she felt her soul being infused with something, as if she were suddenly filled with power. Go on, haste makes waste, so take it slow. If you encounter something you can't handle, call me, and I'll come to your rescue immediately. Wen Yimo looked at me with emotion, her eyes instantly welling up with tears. There are many bad people in this world who see someone gentle and easy to bully and then exert pressure for no reason, but there's no shortage of good people either, like those who spoke up for her online, and just like me. Though I'm neither kin nor friend, I'm still willing to do my best to help her. Since I said she could go vent her anger, Wen Yimo truly didn't want to linger for even a second longer and quickly disappeared from my room. From the moment she fell until the incident was exposed, only a few short days had passed. At first, that person was indeed quite panicked. After all, a life had been taken. But that panic soon vanished, replaced by an attitude of acting as if nothing had happened. Those born into luxury and power, raised in such environments and educated in that manner, easily develop a mistaken perception. That is, always considering themselves superior to others, while ordinary people are naturally seen as inferior. There's nothing that money can't solve. And if money doesn't work, there's always power. Zhang Yan wasn't the one who directly caused the fall, but he had participated in the isolation and bullying of Wen Yimo at the mall that day. Zhang Yan certainly hasn't had an easy time these past few days. Having just heard the news from Mu Xuan's mouth before he could even do anything, things had already spiraled out of control. Only then did he recount the story to his parents, and naturally, he was given a severe scolding. Yet, in his heart, he felt reassured again. Even though his parents scolded him, they would certainly never abandon him. With the immense power of the Jiang family, clearing his name and distancing him from this case would truly be as easy as pie. Therefore, Zhang Yan didn't bother worrying anymore, even thinking that at most, he'd just have to transfer schools. There was no shortage of prestigious schools in Haicheng. He wasn't afraid of not having a place to study. He sat on the bed, leaning against the headboard, focused on an entertainment show on his phone, occasionally bursting into laughter, showing no sign of being affected by the incident. When Yimo floated into his room, and this was the sight that met her eyes. Rage surged straight to her brain. Look, these people don't have the slightest remorse. They will never repent and start over. To them, those whose status is beneath theirs are worth even less than animals. Wen Yimo's rage and resentment erupted violently. The crystal chandelier in Zhang Yan's room immediately began to shake violently. The lights flickered incessantly, emitting sharp, buzzing sounds, as if the light was malfunctioning. Zhang Yan was suddenly startled, jumping in fright. He looked up at the chandelier on the ceiling, unable to help but mutter to himself. What's going on? Is the light broken? He stared at it for a while. The chandelier returned to normal, so he didn't pay it any more attention. But just as he shifted his focus back to his phone, the lights in the room began to flicker again, with the faint sound of electricity hissing. He still didn't think much of it, pouted, and got out of bed to check the light switch. To his surprise, once he tried it, he broke into a cold sweat all over. The switch was completely unresponsive. He didn't turn it off, but the lights cut out. He didn't turn it on, but they lit up again. And even though he had clearly shut the windows tight, there seemed to be a draft in the room, and he could feel a bone-chilling cold. For some reason, he suddenly thought of Wen Yimo, and his face instantly twisted in horror. He instinctively turned to open the door and run out, but no matter how hard he tried to turn the handle, the door that was perfectly fine suddenly became jammed shut. Open the door. Open it up. Come here quickly. Someone save me. Is anyone there? Zhang Yan couldn't suppress the extreme terror in his heart, and he began to scream in agony. His screams were truly bone-chilling, and in the dead of night, they made everyone else in the Jiang family villa feel their hearts pounding in their chests as they rushed toward his room in a panic. Master Jiang banged on the door from outside. Zhang Yan, what's happening? Open the door. What are you doing in there? I can't open it. There's a ghost, Dad. Please save me. Zhang Yan wailed while trembling, pounding his hands against the door. The fear in his voice pierced through the door, going straight into the ears of those standing outside. Nonsense, calm down. There are no such things as ghosts in this world. Don't scare yourself. Is the lock just stuck? Calm down and check it. I'll have someone get the keys. Master Jiang spoke while glancing at Madame Jiang, both of them instinctively thinking about recent events. Master Jiang's expression was grim, feeling both anger and pity for his son. It's likely his guilty conscience is causing hallucinations, scaring himself like this. Fortunately, the Jiang family lived in a detached villa with a fair distance between houses. Otherwise, with all his screaming, the whole neighborhood would have heard him. A servant quickly brought the keys, but strangely, no matter how they turned the key, it wouldn't open. Inside, Zhang Yan's screams continued, accompanied by the sound of crashing, as if a lamp was being smashed to pieces. After one final loud crash, the door that had been jammed suddenly swung open. The Jiang family members rushed inside, greeted by a scene of horrific chaos. The once luxuriously decorated room now had furniture scattered everywhere, a bedside lampshade hung precariously to one side, the curtains were crumpled and torn, the crystal chandelier had fallen from the ceiling, glass shards were strewn all over the floor, and the rug was flipped up at one corner. The entire Jiang family stood there in shock, looking more closely once again. They saw Jiang Yan lying unconscious behind the door, cold sweat still pouring from his forehead. They scrambled to carry him away together, then hurriedly called for a doctor immediately. After examining him, the doctor found it very strange. Young Master Jiang seems to have suffered a massive shock. Did he just go through something very terrible? The faces of the Jiang family members all turned grim. Master Jiang forced a bitter smile and confessed to the doctor. "We aren't really sure ourselves. He was in his private room. We thought he had already gone to sleep. But then we suddenly heard him scream, and when we came to check, he had already fainted." What could they say now? Could they say their son did something shady and scared himself into thinking he saw a ghost? He might not care about his dignity, but the Jiang family still needed to save face. The doctor didn't press for more details. Physically, there's no major issue, but the injury on his forehead seems quite severe. I'm afraid it might leave a scar. Hearing this, the Jiang family's expressions shifted immediately. After the doctor left, Jiang Yan quickly regained consciousness, but he was clearly scared out of his wits. His mind was not fully clear yet, and he immediately fell into a horrific nightmare. "Don't go. Please don't go. It wasn't me. I didn't hurt you. I wasn't the one who pushed you downstairs. Go away. Don't come looking for me." His eyes were still tightly shut, but his hands flailed around wildly, his face showing signs of extreme panic and terror. Madame Jiang heard her son's words clearly, and her face paled. "Jiang Yan, wake up now. It's okay. You're just having a nightmare. Wake up." She frantically patted her son's face, but he still didn't show any reaction. Finally, she had to steel herself and slap him, which finally managed to wake him up. As soon as Jiang Yan opened his eyes and saw his mother, he burst into loud sobs, immediately throwing himself into Madame Jiang's arms, clutching her clothes and not letting go, his whole body trembling uncontrollably. "Mom, there's a ghost. I saw her. It's Wen Yimo. She came back to settle the score with me. She said, I killed her and wants my life in return. I told her I didn't, but she wouldn't believe me. She wants to strangle me to death." He had never believed in ghosts before, but what had just happened in the room simply couldn't be explained by common logic, and he swore that he had actually seen her, wearing the exact same clothes as that day. It really was Wen Yimo's ghost. "Jiang Yan, you're being foolish. There are no souls or ghosts in this world. You're just scaring yourself. Stop overthinking things. Don't worry about that other matter. Nothing is going to happen. Our family can handle everything smoothly. No one will be able to harm you. Just be a good boy and stop worrying. Everything will be settled in just a few days." Madame Jiang's expression was very grim, and she couldn't help but feel a shiver down her spine at her son's words. But she tried to stay calm, hugging and comforting him. Perhaps being in his mother's arms brought a sense of security as his mood slowly began to stabilize. To fully convince her son, Madame Jiang both persuaded and forced him to see the scene. The servants had already cleaned the room once, so it no longer looked as horrifyingly messy as before. See, it's obvious the chandelier wasn't installed properly, which is why it fell. And regarding what you told me, it was just because you didn't close the window properly. Didn't you notice it's very windy today? A draft would naturally cause things to move around. All those years of schooling wasted on you. Madame Jiang half scolded and half coaxed him, gently tapping his forehead with her hand. Madame Jiang's face showed no sign of deceit, her demeanor so natural it couldn't be more convincing, making even Jiang Yan start to waver. He wondered if he was just overthinking, becoming like a bird startled by a mere branch, and scaring himself for no reason. "Don't scare yourself anymore. Just sleep in the guest room for tonight. Tomorrow I'll have someone clean your room. We won't reinstall that crystal chandelier. It's too dangerous." Jiang Yan, half believing and half doubting, was led to the guest room. "Jiang Yan, what kind of nonsense are you talking about? Did you just finish watching a horror movie? You're just psychologically obsessed, thinking you're seeing ghosts and such." Mu Xuan couldn't believe his best friend called him over just to tell him such an absurd story. He said he saw Wen Yimo's ghost? How could that even be possible? After just one short night, Jiang Yan looked completely haggard, even becoming a bit paranoid and jumpy. He frantically glanced all around, then lowered his voice while trembling. "It's not that, Xiao Xuan. It's real. What I'm telling you is absolute truth. Last night, I truly saw her ghost with my own eyes. She was right there in my room. She trashed the place and turned it upside down. She said I was the one who harmed her, and she's back to settle the blood debt. Then I was so exhausted I passed out, and the blanket suddenly started floating in midair. I saw it with my very own eyes." Jiang Yan's eyes were filled with horror and panic, and every time he recalled last night, he felt his skin crawl. Last night, even after being convinced by his mother and seeing the guest room quiet for a while, did he finally dare to breathe a sigh of relief and sleep. But who would have guessed? As soon as he was deep asleep, he felt freezing cold, despite being covered by a thick down comforter. At that time, the room temperature wasn't even that low. Finally, unable to bear the cold, he woke up, only to open his eyes and see the blanket covering him, eerily hovering in the air. He let out an instinctive scream of horror, but this time no one came to his rescue. His screams seemed to be blocked by some force, so no matter how much he cried out, no one knew. He was so scared he crawled under the bed to hide, but that basically had no effect. When Yimo's voice suddenly echoed in the room, a gloomy voice that seemed to come from hell itself, he truly didn't know how he managed to survive through it. There were dark circles under Jiang Yan's eyes, his gaze still filled with lingering shock and fear. His spirit was in a state of extreme tension. Even a small sound was enough to scare him out of his wits. Mu Xuan frowned deeply, finding his friend's words completely irrational, but looking at his condition, it didn't seem like he was lying. For a moment, Mu Xuan didn't know whether to believe it or not. While he was still hesitating, Jiang Yan suddenly stared at him with a bizarre look and spoke in a dark voice. Xiao Xuan. When Yimo came looking for me, she refuses to let me go, so she won't leave you alone either. Mu Xuan's heart skipped a beat, and he immediately snapped back in a low voice. Jiang Yan, have you gone mad? There's no such thing as ghosts in this world. Pull yourself together. Besides, her accident had nothing to do with you, and it certainly has absolutely nothing to do with me. Jiang Yan was stunned for a moment after hearing that, muttering to himself. Right, I wasn't the one who made her fall, so why would she come after me? That day, I only gave a small suggestion. No one forced her to do it. If anything, it's her own fault for being clumsy and careless. She's dead anyway, so why bother haunting me now? The more he thought about it, a wave of cruelty rose within Jiang Yan. His dull eyes suddenly turned sharp and murderous, showing clear ruthlessness and determination. Fine, you want to be a ghost and scare me? Then I'll hire a master to exorcise her. I'll make her soul scatter and vanish, so she can't even be a ghost anymore. Once the idea formed in his mind, Jiang Yan couldn't sit still for a moment longer. He only managed to toss back a few words before rushing off. Unfortunately, Jiang Yan was too optimistic, because no one in the Jiang family believed a word he said. They simply thought his mental state was suffering from serious issues. Madame Jiang could only comfort and coax him over and over again, but she absolutely wouldn't entertain the idea of hiring an exorcist to perform a ritual. Though the elite paid great attention to feng shui, often inviting masters to check directions and set formations, that was only to seek wealth and good fortune. The matter of ghosts and spirits was mere nonsense to them. Just as Jiang Yan was becoming increasingly frantic, another horrific thing occurred, which completely shattered his remaining reason, even scaring Mu Xuan into falling ill. The student who led the bullying incident suddenly fell critically ill and was rushed to the emergency room overnight. Though his life was eventually saved, his spirit had completely collapsed, spending all day cowering in his hospital bed like a madman, constantly mumbling 3 words: I was wrong. His parents wept bitterly in extreme pain, insisting that someone had harmed their child, stubbornly blaming Wen Yimo's parents. But after investigation they found that it was absolutely impossible. The Wen couple lived very far from their home, at least an hour's drive away. Plus, they had a clear alibi, having never even come near this area once, and no signs of forced entry were found in the house, with the alarm system working perfectly fine and untouched. Wen Yimo was just a simple working girl, yet she died so suddenly and unjustly. The incident sparked an extremely powerful wave of public opinion, enough to become one of the hottest topics. It touched upon the painful issue of the wealth gap in the city, which is why the story's popularity kept rising. The parents of the wealthy children involved tried to use money to cover it up, but every time they paid to remove posts from the search bar, the information would immediately explode even more powerfully, with the search ranking jumping even higher. Even all their personal information was laid bare, making them so scared they didn't dare say another word, staying quiet and playing dead. So even though a few days had passed since the incident, people on social media were still buzzing with discussion. Now that one of the bullies had died, the news spread immediately with lightning speed. Compared to the sorrow and empathy for Wen Yimo, no one had a good word to say about that person's death. In the end, justice is in the eye of the beholder, and it was a fitting end for his crimes. He indirectly ruined a person's life, so now he has to pay the blood debt, a life for a life. On what grounds should just admitting a mistake allow them to continue living freely? Exactly, so young yet so chillingly cold-blooded. Hopefully, Wen Yimo's soul can now rest in peace. Wen Yimo sobbed so hard she couldn't control herself. I just sat quietly by her side, watching her pour her heart out, without a word of advice or empty consolation. All right, now your wish has been fulfilled. It's time for you to go. The one responsible for your death has been scared to death. When Yimo hadn't actually laid a finger on anyone, he died because of his own twisted mind, creating demons that scared himself. A person who lives uprightly naturally has nothing to fear, while those with dark hearts see ghosts and demons everywhere they look. It wouldn't be good for Wen Yimo to linger in the human world for too long. She slowly stopped crying, lifting her face to look at me in silence. With an earnest gaze, she asked softly, "Could I see my parents one last time?" I looked at her and shook my head firmly in refusal. "There's no need. Your parents have only just begun to heal a little. If you appear now, it would only reopen their wounds, causing them heart-wrenching pain all over again." When Yimo was dazed for a moment, lowering her head as she realized the truth in that. "However, I can help you appear in their dreams, so you can enter their dreams and say your final goodbyes to your parents." "Thank you so much," Wen Yimo exclaimed, both joyful and deeply moved. I replied indifferently, "It's just a mutually beneficial arrangement." Wen Yimo understood that I was helping her in exchange for proper payment, just as I said, a fair trade. I helped her punish the wrongdoers, dissolving the sky-high resentment in her heart, so her parents wouldn't have to face the elite alone and no longer had to live in constant fear of retaliation. Now she could depart in peace. That night, the Wen couple fell into a very deep sleep. Ever since that fateful day their daughter met her end, this was the first time they had such a peaceful rest. In their dreams, they saw their beloved daughter again, still looking as obedient and lovely as ever. She gave a radiant smile and said she had to go, telling her parents to take good care of themselves from now on. Finally, she mentioned that she had been helped by a master to obtain justice. For some reason, at that moment, the couple immediately thought of the young man who claimed to be her friend. They hurriedly pressed their daughter for the truth, but she didn't say another word, only giving a very gentle smile, waving goodbye with lingering affection before her figure slowly vanished into the void of the dream. While still sound asleep, tears streamed down the couple's cheeks. They understood that this time, their daughter had truly gone forever. Perhaps a beautiful afterlife really existed somewhere out there, and their daughter would surely be reborn into a kind family, where she could grow up in peace and safety to make up for all the bitterness and regrets of this life. Even though their daughter didn't explicitly confirm it, they were certain the master she mentioned was the boy who had visited their home the other day. If that was true, then he was absolutely no ordinary mortal. When they woke up, the couple discussed how to show their gratitude, and right then, I appeared at their house once again. As soon as they saw me, they prepared to drop to their knees, to thank me for helping their daughter fulfill her wish. I quickly raised my hand to stop them. "Do you two remember what I told you before? I help you, and in return, I require payment. Now is the time for me to collect that payment. Are you willing to give it to me?" "Willing. We are absolutely willing. As long as it's something we have, we will give it all." Both of them spoke with expressions of extreme sincerity. I could clearly see the kindness in their eyes, so I gave a slight smile and nodded in satisfaction. "All right, now please close your eyes and silently think about the greatest reward you can possibly give me." The couple shared a look, and without questioning or hesitating for a second, slowly closed their eyes. At this moment, their hearts were filled with infinite reverence. Just a short while later, I saw a very pure, golden light slowly emanate from the tops of their heads. A smile of full satisfaction spread across my lips. This was the merit they had accumulated for so long. The purer the light was, the more it proved how sincere their gratitude was, and the reward they were willing to give was surely the greatest. This was also the final payment I had been longing for. I took out a small, exquisite blessing pouch, and with a light flick of my small hand, the two streams of golden light immediately vanished into the pouch. After tightening the drawstring of the pouch, I spoke in a very relieved tone. "It's done. I have received your payment in full. You two truly are kind-hearted souls. It is thanks to your benevolent hearts and goodness, your hard work and merit accumulated all these years, that Wen Yimo had the chance to meet me." The couple was stunned for a moment after hearing this, before Madame Wen couldn't help but ask out loud, "If that's the case, then why did our daughter have to suffer?" I looked directly into her eyes in silence. Wen Yimo was destined to face a great catastrophe in her fate, and even though her life was short and she departed early in this life, thanks to the merits you both worked so hard to accumulate, not only will she be reborn smoothly, but her next life will be in an even more prosperous and better family. She will grow up in peace just as you wished. She will marry, have children, and enjoy a happy life until her final days. Is that really true? A glimmer of hope flickered in Madame Wen's eyes. Of course, I have never lied to anyone. Then that's wonderful, truly wonderful. Madame Wen couldn't stop her choked-up sobs once more. Before leaving, I originally intended to say a few more things, but the words caught in my throat. I thought to myself that maybe there was no need for unnecessary talk. The Wen couple had persistently done good and built merit for years, so even though they just lost a child they loved dearly, in the end the heavens will grant them a new soul to compensate. Wen Yimo's departure brought immense pain, but it also simultaneously opened a beginning for a new life. I returned home only to run into Dr. Song right there. As soon as I saw the doctor, I raised an eyebrow in curiosity. It turned out that Mu Xuan had fallen ill, and this time he was truly bedridden. The family had called in several teams of doctors, but the situation wasn't improving, making the entire Mu family feel like they were sitting on a bed of hot coals. Of course, I wasn't part of that extreme anxiety at all. Pei Shuero walked downstairs with a face full of worry, and as soon as she saw me, her expression relaxed slightly. Xiao Chen, you're back. Is the matter you needed to handle all settled? If you run into any trouble, you must tell me. Don't just suffer in silence by yourself. Don't worry, Mom. My business is all finished. Everything went quite smoothly. That's good then. Pei Shuero nodded slightly in satisfaction, but deep in her eyes, a profound sadness still lingered. Now that Xiao Xuan is so seriously ill, I just hope nothing else happens to my Xiao Chen. I don't even know what's wrong with Xiao Xuan. One minute he was fine, and then he suddenly fell ill out of the blue. We've taken him to the hospital for all kinds of tests, but doctors can't find anything. Our family has invited so many doctors already. He's tried all sorts of medicines and acupuncture, but his condition remains stagnant with no improvement. It's enough to drive one crazy with worry. Mom, so what was the doctor's final conclusion? Seeing me take the initiative to ask about Mu Xuan, Pei Shuero seemed quite happy and relieved. She thought to herself that maybe I was just cold on the outside but warm inside, and still cared about this brother. They keep saying it's because the boy has some repressed melancholy in his heart. But how could that even be possible? Mu Xian is still so young. What could he possibly be so troubled about, to the point where he's bedridden with such a severe illness of the heart? In my opinion, these doctors must not be very skilled at all. If only it were back when Mu Xian first learned the truth about his origins. If said that way, he would believe it. But that was over a month ago. He was clearly doing fine before this, so suddenly falling ill is clearly not because of that. But when we ask Mu Xian, he can explain the reason why either. I smiled meaningfully. Perhaps what the doctor said wasn't wrong. Who knows, maybe he really is suffering from some kind of heart illness. Isn't there a saying that a sickness of the heart must be treated with medicine for the heart? Pei Shuero was instantly stunned. Heart illness? But where would Mu Xian even get a heart illness from? I flashed an incredibly gentle and harmless smile. Then you should ask him what exactly he has done. Pei Shuero looked at me suspiciously. Do you know something, son? It's not that I want to care about Mu Xian. Whatever happens to him has nothing to do with me. But with him lying sick at home like this, he's turning the whole house upside down, making father and mother worry incessantly. Look at my mother's well-maintained eyes. Tiny wrinkles have appeared just from her fretting. I paused for a moment, then spoke softly. Have you seen the news online, Mother? The incident that happened at the mall that day. Pei Shuero naturally remembered this clearly, and she had been following its progress. After all, it was a pretty big scandal. But wasn't this matter already resolved? That girl fell due to an accident. The mall security footage was released after the perpetrator was scared to death, causing a public outcry. I even know that girl's parents. Our relationship was ordinary. I never expected things to end up like this. Now even their company is being affected. I heard they are preparing to move away. After looking into it, I also felt heartbroken. But what does this have to do with Mu Xian? I spoke calmly. Jiang Yan's condition right now is even worse than Mu Xian's. He screams all day about seeing that employee's ghost. That day at the shopping mall, Jiang Yan was also part of that group. It's just that he was lucky enough to hide in the back so his figure wasn't caught on camera. That's why when that friend died, he was also scared out of his wits. Pei Shuero was deeply shaken upon realizing the implication. Her eyes widened in shock, her face showing sheer disbelief. I didn't say outright that Mu Xian was involved, but Pei Shuero would be able to judge for herself. Jiang Yan and Mu Xian are extremely close friends. They attend the same school and are in the same class. With the terrible things Jiang Yan has done, could Mu Xian really be completely unaware? How could that possibly be? Pei Shuero clearly understood this as well, so her expression immediately turned very grim. I had said enough, so I spoke no further. In the evening, after Master Mu returned from work, Pei Shuero recounted the story to him. He was also incredibly shocked upon hearing it. After all, in his long-standing impression, Mu Xian had always been an obedient, sensible child. How could he have possibly done something like this? But thinking back on his unusual behavior over the past few days, Master Mu's heart sank. The two of them went to Mu Xian's room. Seeing them enter, Mu Xian forced himself up to sit on the bed. Father, Mother, why are you here? Is something the matter? Mu Xian's spirit was currently very low. His face was unnaturally pale, his eyes were bloodshot, and his gaze was weary. He had to struggle just to stay upright, looking not like someone who had been sick for a few days, but like someone who had been suffering from a severe illness for a long time. Master Mu sat down, his expression extremely solemn, looking at him with stern eyes. Mu Xian, your mother and I have something to ask you, and you must answer truthfully. Mu Xian's heart skipped a beat. He instinctively glanced at Pei Shuero, only to find her wearing a similarly grave expression. He was a bit panicked, not knowing what was happening, but he still nodded slightly. "Yes, father, please ask." "Were you involved in that matter?" he asked bluntly, catching Mu completely off guard. And precisely because of this suddenness, Mu didn't have time to hide his expression, which was seen clearly by the two of them. The expression on his face said everything, and a deep disappointment surfaced in their eyes. The son who had been so obedient and kind in front of them turned out to have such a personality behind their backs. This truly left them profoundly disappointed. They didn't recall ever teaching their child to do such things. Pei-Shuo was even more disappointed and heartbroken, questioning herself as she had never been negligent in raising her children. She always cared for them, asking about every aspect of their lives, using life events as teaching moments, striving to instill proper moral values in them, unlike many other elite families, who left everything to tutors without a second thought. But why did Mu do this? Why would he ostracize a classmate? Even when caught by adults, he didn't know how to admit his fault, which ultimately led to that accident. Mu met their disappointed gazes, and he knew this matter could no longer be hidden. The confusion and fear suppressed in his heart for so long, the anxiety and dread, the terror suddenly exploded. He burst into loud, sobbing tears, soon weeping so hard he could barely breathe, trying to justify himself through his cries. "Father, mother, I've let you both down. I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. I never expected things to turn out like this. I didn't do anything to Miss Wen. I didn't know she would do that. A matter like this, and you say you didn't know?" Master Mu was so angry he was speechless. "You didn't know whether a bad deed should be done or not? Is he a 3-year-old child who knows nothing? He is 17 years old, has been educated in school for over a decade. Could it be he doesn't even possess the most basic moral standards? Why on earth did you do such a thing? Was your obedience and sensibility in front of us all just a lie? Why did you want to ostracize someone else?" Mu bit his lip, his eyes shifting evasively, hesitating to reveal his true feelings. He knew that envy was wrong, but he truly couldn't control himself. Since childhood, he had always been the most outstanding, the most brilliant one in the crowd, the moon surrounded by countless stars. But that classmate had stolen his spotlight, stolen even his #1 position. "Are you still refusing to tell the truth?" Pei-Shuo shouted in anger. Mu entire body trembled uncontrollably, his pale lips stammering. He felt humiliated having to state the reason, his voice growing smaller as he spoke. Pei-Shuo wished she could just faint and get it over with. "Listen to this. What on earth is all of this? Just because someone else is more talented, envy grows in your heart, and then you incite friends to ostracize them. Even when caught, you didn't change, but instead relied on your family background to threaten them. He's jealous of someone else's good grades? So why didn't he work harder to surpass them? Why use these wicked schemes to harm someone instead?" She looked at Mu in sheer disbelief, feeling that this son was suddenly so incredibly foreign. Was it that they hadn't known their son well enough, or had they fundamentally never truly understood him? He couldn't help but feel a deep sense of doubt. Pei-Shuo's gaze terrified Mu. He lunged into her arms, clutching her waist tightly, sobbing and screaming, "Mother, I'm sorry. I really didn't mean for this to happen. I didn't know things would turn out this way. At first, I just wanted to see her get discredited. I had no intention of hurting anyone. Really, what they did after that, I didn't. I truly wasn't involved in any of it. I didn't even know about the incident at the mall that day. Jiangyun never mentioned it to me. He only told me after it became a scandal. That was when I found out. If I had been there, I definitely would have stopped it. I didn't want to hurt anyone. Father, I really know I was wrong. I never expected things to come to this. You'll never dare to do it again. You'll never be jealous of anyone again. I will work hard to become a better person on my own. Please believe me, Father. Mother." Mu Xian's voice was incredibly urgent, filled with desperate pleading. He wasn't the Mu family's biological blood. Currently, he was only an adopted son. He couldn't let his parents be completely disappointed in him. If they were disappointed in him, would they abandon him and heartlessly send him away elsewhere? Where else could he possibly go then? Mu Xian had already been living in constant fear. Every friend involved in this matter had encountered bizarre events, and the one directly responsible for the fall had been scared to death. His nerves had been stretched to their breaking point, and his psychological endurance had reached its limit. Now, having been discovered by Master Mu and his wife, the thought of being kicked out wouldn't stop flashing through his mind. Regret, fear, anxiety, insecurity, and despair all surged into his mind at once. Added to that, he hadn't had a proper rest for days, so in his confused and frantic state, he couldn't catch his breath and fainted. The Mu household fell into chaos once again. Everyone rushed to Mu Xian's room. I was the only one who didn't show my face. Mu Yuwei was extremely furious. She muttered a few things, which were heard clearly by Pei-Shuo. She was already incensed about the whole situation, so hearing her second daughter defend Mu Xian while targeting her eldest son, her anger immediately flared up violently. She scolded her harshly. "Why are you targeting Mu Chen all the time? He is your biological brother, not your enemy. Furthermore, is Mu Chen a doctor? Whether he comes or not, what difference would it make? Peishuero was actually a very tolerant mother. Usually she seemed to scold her children often, but everyone knew it was just empty threats. It was rare for her to reprimand and berate them like this, so Mu Yuwei was stunned into silence by the scolding. Mu Yuanding and the twins had just returned. They looked at each other in bewilderment, a sense of suspicion simultaneously arising in their hearts. Did something happen in the house that I don't know about? The Mu sisters noticed the unusual atmosphere. At first they only suspected something had happened, but now they were basically certain. Only I remained completely unaffected, going about my business as usual all day long, engrossed in watching television programs. Originally, they said they'd hire a tutor for me, but that matter had now been put on hold. While the others were buried in homework, every day I did nothing but watch TV, and only at mealtimes could I be lured away from the sofa. Mu Chen, you've been staying indoors all day. Did something happen at home? I'm busy at the company, so sometimes I overlook things here at home. If anything happens in the house, you must remember to tell me. Mu Yuanding rarely had a day off at home, but she still had to bury herself in paperwork in her study for half the day, only just now coming downstairs to see me watching TV. She paused for a moment and then sat down beside me, but I didn't even bother to give her a single glance. Nothing is wrong with our house. It's fine. Really? Is everything truly okay? Our parents have looked very troubled these past few days. Could it be because of your studies? Since I wouldn't speak, she had to probe for herself. I've been back at the Mu house for over a month now, yet Mu Yuanding still felt her brother was quite a stranger. Hearing that, I finally granted her a look, though it was a somewhat unusual gaze. Why are you so sure it's about me? Do you just assume any family trouble is caused by me? I didn't mean that. I know you are very obedient. Not at all. I'm not obedient in the slightest. Mu Yuanding felt utterly exhausted. If you want to know, go ask father and mother. I don't want anyone bad-mouthing me behind my back later or driving a wedge between everyone's feelings. I turned my eyes back to the television. Mu Yuanding raised an eyebrow. Those words were rather unpleasant to the ear. Could it be Mu Xian? Thinking back to 2 nights ago, Mu Yuanding couldn't help but frown. Before she could find a chance to ask further, the Lunar New Year arrived and the atmosphere in the Mu household somewhat softened. After several days of illness, Mu Xian had also recovered, though he had visibly become more withdrawn. This was my first Lunar New Year since returning to the Mu family. Master Mu and Pei Shuero both took it very seriously, having started preparations very early on. Every meticulous decoration in the house, right down to the menu for the New Year's Eve dinner, was prepared with great care. Everything revolved around me. As for the others in the house, they had already celebrated so many Lunar New Years, so what would it matter if they deferred to Mu Chen a little this year? Wasn't that only natural? On the 30th day of the new year, the house was bustling with excitement. The previous gloomy atmosphere seemed as if it had never existed. Master Mu and Pei Shueris' attitude toward Mu Xian also hadn't changed significantly. Since that day, the two of them had spoken once, and after that, no one mentioned the matter again. The first time I celebrated a grand new year in the mortal world, I felt everything was extremely novel, and I myself became very happy. Not only did I smile more, but it seemed my temperament had improved quite a bit, and I no longer clashed with Mu Yuwei. This made Pei Shuero and Master Mu immensely joyful. After the Lunar New Year, the whole family prepared to return to the capital. The Mu family's roots were in the capital, and Grandmother Mu lived there as well. As the eldest son, Master Mu should have brought his children back to pay their New Year respects, otherwise it would likely invite public gossip. Usually, the two families celebrated New Year's Eve separately, unless there was something special requiring them to gather and return to the capital for a reunion dinner. Besides, I had only just returned, so it was necessary to take me to the capital to be introduced to everyone. Aside from those 3 sisters, the Mu family still had other relatives from collateral branches, who were still frequently in touch today. On the second day of the new year, the whole family packed and departed, flying back to the capital on the family's private jet. Being on a plane for the first time, I felt very curious, sticking close to the window throughout the flight, staring out at the world below, making Pei Shuero burst into laughter. Mu Yuwei was about to open her mouth to mock me, but Pei Shuero immediately shot her a sharp look, and she instantly took the hint and fell silent. As soon as we reached the border of the capital, the Mu family had arranged for someone to pick us up. The whole family got into the car and drove straight to the ancestral home in the capital. Before going, Pei Shuero gave me a brief overview of the complex social relationships there, and I only nodded slightly after listening, absolutely not saying a single redundant word. Arriving at the gates of the Mu family's ancestral home, as was my habit, I carefully observed the surroundings. The Mu family had stood firm in the capital for over 100 years, and naturally, the current ancestral home had undergone many renovations, gradually taking on the shape it had today. It wasn't the Western-style villa that the wealthy often favored, but was deeply imbued with the country's traditional style. It was a square, grand courtyard mansion, a place where one could find profound historical imprints. Generations of the Mu family had preserved the house extremely well. Rumor has it that a Grand Master was invited to choose the land when it was built. When the head of the house died back then, he left a will, instructing future generations not to change the location of the ancestral home, not to meddle with the foundation, and absolutely never to sell this ancient house. Any renovations could only be done on the original foundation, and anyone who violated this would immediately lose their inheritance rights. Thanks to those strict regulations, strictly speaking, the ancestral home had almost no major changes. Only the upper structure had changed. I could see that this ancestral home was truly prosperous for the descendants, its fortune accumulated over many, many years. A faint purple aura could be glimpsed in the sky above the house, and yet it was beginning to show signs of decline, signaling that the protection of the ancestral home was slowly vanishing. It seems no one has touched the ancestral home, so it must be that the descendants have run into some kind of problem. The corner of my mouth quirked up slightly. This is starting to get interesting. Happy New Year! The first greeting upon stepping into the house was Happy New Year. Not only did Master Mu's family arrive today, but even the married eldest daughter brought her whole family back. Oh my, this must be Mu Chen, right? Auntie is sorry. Something came up at home last time, so I couldn't make it to Haishi. Please don't blame me. Mu Qiaoxuan immediately fixed her eyes on me, an unfamiliar face standing beside Peixuero. This could only be the son her third brother had just found. Greetings, Auntie. I am Mu Chen. I feigned an incredibly obedient manner. Mu Qiaoxuan smiled at me, her eyes discreetly sizing me up. You look exactly like your parents. I am their son after all, so naturally I must look like them. Mu Qiaoxuan's smile seemed to falter slightly, and she spoke nonchalantly. That's true. Is this the cousin who grew up in a mountain temple? He looked so terribly rustic, not a single trace of an elite Mu family heir at all. A young man who seemed to be about my age suddenly jumped to Mu Qiaoxuan's side. His eyes stared and scanned me from head to toe, an action that was incredibly rude, his tone carrying an undisguised contempt. Peixuero's face immediately darkened, and Mu Qiaoxuan hastily pulled her son back, offering a mild reprimand that carried absolutely no weight. What kind of way is that to speak? I used an even more scrutinizing and derogatory gaze, carefully scanning him from head to toe in return. You were indeed raised in the embrace of your parents, living in luxury with every need met, and yet, looking at your behavior, it seems you're not even as good as me. The expressions of Mu Qiaoxuan and her son instantly changed. Meng Sijie grew so angry his face turned beet red. He completely didn't expect that I would be the kind of person who refused to follow convention. Wouldn't an ordinary person in this situation simply endure it in silence? How dare he snap back right here in front of everyone? Inside, Peixuero was secretly thrilled, but outwardly she mimicked Mu Qiaoxuan's earlier demeanor perfectly. This child truly is. How can you speak like that? I kept a deadpan face and casually replied. I was only learning from him. I assumed the young masters of the capital all behaved this way. Mu Yuwei stood to the side, struggling to stifle her laughter. Previously, she had always been the one being twisted into knots by me, so today it was finally someone else's turn. Seeing me shut him down so that he couldn't utter a word, why did she feel so triumphant? Although this cousin had a very good relationship with Mu Xian, she truly couldn't stand him. Mu Xian was also a young master of the Mu family, with a noble status, pampered by thousands. But he was never as unreasonably arrogant as this cousin, and he was particularly selfish to boot. He acted as if the entire world had to revolve around him. During family gatherings when they were young, Meng Sijie didn't dare trouble the eldest sister too much, but it was an entirely different story with the others. Everyone was forced to be his playthings, conceding to his every whim in everything they did. If they didn't listen, he would throw a tantrum and cry, and when he caused trouble, he'd blame his cousins, making them bear countless unfair accusations. As he grew up, he switched to playing the victim card, making the sisters, every time they saw him. Now finally, someone has managed to handle him. Peixuero shot a subtle glare at her second daughter, signaling her to exercise some restraint and not to take it too far. She turned her head, looking at the eldest sister Mu Qiaoxuan with a face full of apology. I'm truly sorry, sister. My Mu Chen is good in every way, it's just that his personality is a bit too blunt. Please don't take it to heart. Having said that, she turned to instruct me. The young masters in the capital naturally have very good qualities. Your cousin was just joking earlier. Don't be petty and take it seriously. Mu Qiaoxuan was choked with rage upon hearing this. What? If her son accidentally took it seriously, he would be considered petty? This was the first time Meng Sijie had experienced such a feeling, and he stomped his feet in frustration before running off. Taking advantage of the moment when no one was looking, Mu Yuwei lowered her voice to praise me for doing a great job. Exactly. People like him absolutely must not be pampered. I glanced at her indifferently. I'm not his parent, so of course I won't bother pampering him. That actually makes a lot of sense. Why didn't I think of it that way when I was being bullied by him before? Except for the eldest aunt's family whom I hadn't met yet, I had already met the rest of the Mu family at the recognition banquet. I still hadn't had much chance to interact with my male cousins, and we were only at the stage of formal introductions. Lu Mangqi and Mu Mingyuan had 3 sons. The second son and the youngest son, Hao Wei, were close in age, while the eldest son was already married. He had married a high-born lady from an elite family in the capital. Mu Qiaoshuan and Xie Fusheng had only 1 son, and that was Meng Xijie. With everyone gathered together, the number of people present was indeed not small, making the atmosphere incredibly bustling. The smile on Grandmother Mu's face never faded. "Mu Xian, why have you become so thin?" Grandmother Mu pulled Mu Xian close, studying him for a while before instinctively frowning. Mu Xian touched his face and was just about to speak up and deny it when Grandmother Mu turned toward Pei Shuero and began to voice her dissatisfaction reproachfully. Even if Mu Xian's origins were a mistake, he has still been raised by the Mu family for all these years. You cannot go and mistreat the boy just because of bloodlines. Pei Shuero's expression momentarily became very grim. What does she mean? They were mistreating Mu Xian. When did they ever mistreat him? Seeing Pei Shuero's expression change, Mu Xian hurriedly spoke up to explain, "Grandmother, no, Mom and Dad have been very good to me. It's just that I had a fever a few days ago. In winter, you can get sick if you're even a little careless. Mom and Dad treat me so well. Grandmother, please don't misunderstand." If Mu Xian could have spoken naturally as before, using a spoiled tone to say these words, then Mu Lao Funyan would have surely believed him. But ironically, because of the Wen Yimo incident, there was a massive knot of guilt and anxiety in his heart. He felt that his parents must be disappointed in him, so his actions became cautious and timid. Hurriedly explaining should have been a good thing, but in the eyes of outsiders, it looked like something else, making things look worse as the explanation dragged on. Mu Lao Funan took Mu Xian's hand. "Xiaoxian, don't overthink it. You will always be the young master of our Mu family. I'm making that clear right now. In the future, if anyone dares to give you a hard time, just call your grandmother, and it'll settle the score for you." After saying that, she gave me a pointed, meaningful glance. Even though I noticed it, I didn't care in the slightest, nor did I find it strange. Even though Mu Xian isn't a biological child of the Mu family, they've raised him for over 10 years after all. The feelings built up over those years aren't fake. The affection given has been reciprocated. You can't just take it back in an instant. Bloodlines are important, but feelings accumulated over time are equally vital. I still stand by my old view. As long as Mu Xian doesn't come looking for trouble with me, I'm not bored enough to go and mess with him. As for that meaningless jealousy, what the hell is that anyway? Mother, what are you talking about? No one is bullying Xiaoxian. Xiaoxian really was sick recently. He just needed a few days of rest to recover. He just hasn't had time to regain his strength yet. Father Mu seemed displeased with his mother's words. Honestly, if they wanted to target Xiaoqian by treating Xiaoxian poorly, then why would they keep him around at all? Wouldn't that just be looking for trouble? Mu Xian looked at Mu Lao Funyun with a pleading expression. "Mom and Dad really do treat me very well. Please don't blame them. He should be grateful just to be allowed to stay, given that he's not the real young master." All right, don't worry. Your grandmother is just deeply concerned about you. She mentions you all day long. If it weren't for the start of the school semester, she would have wanted to keep you here for a while longer. Lu Mangqi, seeing the atmosphere was about to turn sour, quickly spoke up to diffuse the awkwardness. Mu Lao Funyan didn't press further. She patted Mu Xian's head, her eyes filled with kindness. "Next year you'll be taking the university entrance exam. You should apply to Beijing University and just move back into the Mu residence permanently." Mu Xian instinctively looked toward Pei Shuero as if seeking her opinion. Pei Shuero frowned slightly. "Regarding the university applications, didn't our family discuss this early on? It all depends on Xiaoxian's own interests." But she ultimately went along with the old lady's wish. "Your grandmother is right. It'll be easier to take care of each other at Beijing University." Mu Xian initially felt happy, but then suspicion couldn't help but rise in his heart. Has Mom really become disappointed in me? Does she not love me anymore? Is that why she wants me to go to Beijing University, so that I'll have to live far away from home? He wouldn't have to show his face in that house so often. His mood immediately plummeted, but he didn't dare show anything on his face, only managing a forced smile to get by. Luckily, he bowed his head. Otherwise, everyone might have wondered what he was thinking. Father Mu's family stayed in Beijing for 2 more days. Pei Shuero wanted to take me sightseeing everywhere, since I had never been to Beijing before. Beijing has many places to visit and delicious food. During Lunar New Year, the most common activity is visiting temples. This is what most people in Beijing do, and there are also incredibly grand temple fairs. The atmosphere there is so lively. By the 3rd day, Mu Mingyuan also grew interested. He called the whole family to go together, saying it was a rare full gathering, so they might as well all go together. The more, the merrier. So the whole extended family piled into 2 7-seaters and set off. Meng Xijie, who knows what he was planning, also tagged along for the fun. He dragged Mu Xian into the same car as the eldest uncle, slyly pushing Mu Mingyuan's youngest son elsewhere. Mu Yuwei was a bit naive, not knowing how to use sweet, flattering words. Anyone could see she was a gentle, simple girl. She had been close with Mu Yuwei since childhood. Seeing their good relationship as they walked and chatted, I gave them a deep, meaningful look. Truly, birds of a feather flock together. Mu Yuwei herself is a fool, so of course she could hang out with someone as naive as Yuwei. Mu Yuwei noticed my gaze. She gave me a confused, puzzled look. What is she trying to do now? It's almost New Year. Don't let her get scolded again. I quickly retracted my gaze. The group went together to the most famous temple in Beijing, a temple with over 300 years of history. Despite surviving the rise and fall of many dynasties and the cleansing fires of war, fortunately, it was still preserved and kept in pristine condition. The Buddha statue in the main hall has sat firmly for over 300 years, still using its compassionate eyes to look through all the world's vanity. I entered the main hall without any psychological pressure, kneeling on the straw mat along with everyone else. I closed my eyes and whispered a prayer in my heart. I hope to accumulate enough merit soon to return to the city of the dead and reopen the gate of rebirth. After praying for a while, I finally opened my eyes and met the compassionate gaze of the Buddha statue. I paused for a moment. Why do I feel like there's something off about this Buddha statue's gaze? I wondered if it was because I had a guilty conscience, and that's why the Buddha looked so strange to me. I stared at the statue without blinking, trying to determine if it was just my imagination. Xiao Chen, you shouldn't stare at the Buddha statue like that. Lord Buddha will take offense. Pei Shuero finished her prayer and saw her son kneeling properly, but his gaze was far too bold, staring directly at the Buddha statue ahead. I looked away. Mom, don't you think his gaze is very strange? Pei Shuero gave a casual glance, then quickly looked away as well. She chuckled and teased affectionately. This boy, what on earth are you thinking? Every Buddha statue is like this. There's nothing strange about it. The Buddha statue in this hall is over 300 years old, carved right when this temple was first built. It's always been like this, never changing. How could it be strange? Thinking about how her son grew up in a Taoist temple, Pei Shuero gently comforted him. Even though there are many Buddhist temples now, Taoist temples still exist. When we have time, I'll take you to a Taoist one to offer prayers. If I weren't the prince of the city of the dead, I would have definitely been terrified by that offer. Although I'm not a ghost, I'm still someone from the underworld, fundamentally on a different path from Buddhas and immortals. I should visit places like this less often in the future. After all, we don't exactly belong to the same crowd. Before getting up, I couldn't help but take one more glance, still feeling that the gaze was not normal. At first glance, it appeared very compassionate, but looking closer, there was something sinister about it, not like a proper Buddha statue at all. On the contrary, it looked like. After leaving the main hall, I pushed my doubts aside. Maybe I really was being too paranoid. This temple's Buddha statue has existed for over 300 years, receiving countless offerings of incense and prayers. Even if there were an issue, the spiritual energy from the incense should have purified it by now. Pei Shuero had been to this temple a few times already. The scenery here was truly wonderful. Before the new year, Beijing had experienced a heavy snowfall, and these days the temperature remained very low. The snow hadn't melted at all, making it perfect for going up the mountain to see the snow. Hearing about going to see the snow, I felt incredibly excited. Truthfully, I had never seen snow before. I probably really hadn't seen it. I don't even remember how long I was in the city of the dead, and likely never saw snow even before going there. Otherwise, why wouldn't I have a single memory of it? Pei Shuero looked at me walking ahead, with a somewhat playful, skipping gait completely different from my mature, calm demeanor at home. Right now, you actually look like a little boy. Seeing her lively son, a gentle smile blossomed on her lips, her eyes filled with love and heartache. Deep down, she still felt a twinge of regret for having missed out on his growing years. The Mu sisters also found it quite strange to see. They had assumed their younger brother was like a rigid little old man. Turns out he's still just a child after all. As for why he was more composed than most adults, there was no need to overthink it. A warm sisterly feeling welled up in Mu Yuwei's heart. She told herself she should be more patient and lenient with him from now on. After all, she was his fourth sister. While walking and playing around, Mu Yuwei suddenly had the urge to tease him. She bent down and grabbed a handful of snow, rolled it into a snowball, and threw it straight at me as I walked ahead. The snowball hit me squarely, and I suddenly stopped. My small face tensed as I turned around. The other three Mu sisters simultaneously pointed at her, signaling that they were completely innocent. I looked at Mu Yuwei and narrowed my eyes slightly. Well, you've got some nerve daring to throw snow at me, huh? Mu Yuwei saw me juggling a snowball provocatively. I stared at her for a moment, then suddenly burst out laughing, revealing my pearly white teeth. I was wearing a white woolen hat with two fluffy pom-poms hanging down on both sides and a very cute decorative trim around the brim. When I smiled like that, my small face suddenly looked very plump and chubby, looking just like a little kitten baring its teeth with a grin. The four sisters felt a slight jolt in their hearts at the sight, a tingly sweet feeling spreading through them, making them all want to rush over and pinch his cheeks. Is our youngest brother really this adorable? Compared to his usual mature self, this must be the charm of contrast. That smile didn't exactly shatter my image, but from then on, in the hearts of his four sisters, I left a deep impression of a unique kind of cuteness. Mu Yuwei also froze for a few seconds. She scratched her head, feeling as though he might be even cuter than Xiaoxian. While she was lost in thought, a white mass flew straight into her face. She reacted quickly, hurriedly dodging to the side, but she still couldn't escape in time. The snowball slammed directly into her face. She was stunned, thinking she would have been able to dodge it. I stood with my hands on my hips, laughing triumphantly. You dare throw something at me and then try to run? In your dreams. Pei Shuero stood nearby, pumping her fist, encouraging and praising her son. Xiao Chen, great throw. What a perfect aim. Your fourth sister really deserves a good beating. Keep throwing them at her with all your heart for me. Just as long as you don't kill her, Mom. Am I really your daughter? Mu Yuwei cried out in despair. Pei Shuero looked at her with disdain. I also wish you weren't my daughter. Unfortunately, you look too much like me, so there's no chance you were swapped at birth. Mu Yuwei felt as if 1,000 arrows had pierced her heart. Aren't you afraid my brother will hurt me with those throws? She still asked, unwilling to accept it. Pei Shuero waved her hand dismissively. That would only prove you're completely useless. What's the big deal about being hit by a few snowballs? Could you really get injured from that? If you actually got hurt, it would only prove you're a weakling. People would laugh you off the street in the future. While talking, I rolled a few more snowballs and threw them directly at her. I had wanted to teach Mu Yuwei a lesson for a long time. She's all size and no brains. She jumps at the slightest provocation. Who knows how she'll be manipulated into doing stupid things in the future. Normally I wouldn't even bother with her, but today she practically delivered herself to me, so I don't need to be polite anymore. I'll just give her a thorough thrashing first. So Mu Yuwei and I launched into a total melee. At first she thought that with her tall and strong build, there was no way she could lose a snowball fight to a mere child. She originally intended to use this chance to vent her frustration, but who could have guessed? Reality was far more brutal. She got absolutely annihilated by me, eventually reduced to covering her head and running for her life everywhere. The most irritating part was the other three heartless sisters who just stood aside watching the show, without a single one of them lifting a finger to help her. In a family of 8, it's as if she were the only adopted child found on the street. What are you all doing? Mu Yuwei and I stopped our playing, and Mu Yuwei breathed a silent sigh of relief. This is so embarrassing, losing a snowball fight to my own younger brother. It was Mu Xian and Meng Sijie. Everyone had clearly come here together, but after praying, everyone had gone their separate ways. Meng Sijie had insisted on dragging Mu Xian along, so Mu Xian had to follow him, and now they had coincidentally bumped into us here. Seeing Mu Yuwei's utterly pathetic state, the neat clothes she wore when leaving home were now filthy. Her hair was messy like a bird's nest, covered in white snow, and then looking at me, still perfectly clean and tidy. Mu Xian was a bit dissatisfied. Xiao Chen, you. How could you throw snowballs and leave fourth sister in such a state? As soon as Mu Yuwei heard that, she sensed something was wrong, hurrying to explain before I could speak, but I didn't give her a single chance. If you hadn't called out, I was planning to throw even harder at her. Besides, she's the one who threw at me first. She only managed one throw, and the result is what you see. I've thrashed her like a pig. Mu Xian was speechless. He opened his mouth to say something, then whispered, but you didn't have to take it this far. Mu Yuwei quickly spoke up to settle things. Xiaoxian, I'm fine. I was just playing snowballs with him. It didn't hurt at all. It's just that my clothes are a bit dirty. Don't worry too much. Having my mood spoiled by Mu Xian, I tossed the snowball in my hand aside, dusted off my hands, and gave a cold huff of annoyance. I walked closer to Pei Shuero. Mom, let's keep going. Pei Shuero smiled and nodded. Then she looked over at Mu Xian and Meng Sijie. Since we've coincidentally met here, let's all go together. It's so crowded during New Year. Accidents can happen easily. Though she was a bit worried they might clash again, her gaze rested on Mu Xian. You once did a favor for the Grandmaster, and he promised you something. Before, you never thought of calling in that promise, but now he is forced to do so. He has to save his eldest grandson. Pei Shuero's group took a stroll around the temple. Everything went smoothly and they left soon after. The couple finally breathed a true sigh of relief. After staying in Beijing for 2 more days, they began their journey back to Haicheng. My father was busy arranging schooling for me. After careful deliberation, the couple decided to enroll me in the same school as Mu Xian. Although the relationship between them wasn't exactly warm, attending the same school and being in the same class would at least allow them to support each other a bit. As the couple considered this, the truth was, they didn't have a shred of confidence in the idea. With Xiao Chen's temperament, expecting him to provide support for, Mu Xian was completely unimaginable. Yet in the end, they decided to go through with it, harboring a small glimmer of hope that perhaps things wouldn't turn out as badly as they feared. Throughout the winter break, I had to attend constant tutoring sessions. The Mu sisters took turns tutoring me, and they even hired private teachers to come to the house. Initially, no one was quite sure of my academic level or what exactly I had been taught before, but very quickly, everything became crystal clear. Though I had never attended a formal school, the priestess who adopted me had taught me a great deal, and my own ability to learn was incredibly sharp, so I picked up everything very rapidly. Father Mu and Pei Shuero were delighted and surprised, and at the same time, they felt incredibly lucky. It was fortunate that priestess was so well educated, she had passed on a lot of useful knowledge to Xiao Chen. Otherwise, my son might have been no better than an illiterate by now. Time flew by, and finally, the first day of school arrived. On that day, Father Mu proactively pushed back his work schedule to personally drive his son to school. In the car was a fretful Pei Shuero, along with Mu Yuwei, who came along to represent the four sisters. The whole way, Pei Shuero kept giving detailed instructions, and I didn't show the slightest sign of impatience. Mu Yuwei, on the other hand, was tired of hearing it. "Mom, please, you've said enough already. He's just going to school after all. You're making it sound like he's going into some great danger." Mu Yuwei rolled her eyes in frustration as she spoke. "Besides, he's not staying in a dorm. He'll be coming home every single afternoon, so what could possibly happen?" Pei Shuero glared at her with fury. "You don't understand a thing, so just shut up. Something happened at this school not long ago if it weren't for Xiaoxian already studying here, and since this is the final semester, I would definitely never have allowed Xiao Chen to study here." Thinking about that unfortunate accident, Pei Shuero felt a wave of deep discomfort. After all, Muxian was involved in that case to some extent. She really wanted to say something more to him, but seeing Muxian standing silently beside her, she had to swallow those words. "Forget it. I believe Xiaoxian has truly realized his mistake. He surely won't dare to do such foolish things again in the future. If I keep bringing it up and won't let it go, I'm afraid that child will become overly sensitive and start overthinking things. Mom, please don't worry so much. No one will be able to bully me." I understood perfectly well what she was worrying about, not to mention I'm the young master of the Mu family, but even if I were just an ordinary person, if anyone dared to touch me, I would definitely make him pay 100 times over. Cruel people are naturally only good at bullying the weak and fearing the strong. As long as I am fiercer and more ruthless than them, they will naturally turn around and be terrified of me. Father Mu and Pei Shuero took me right to the school gate, but they couldn't go inside. Normally, the school doesn't allow parents to enter the inner grounds. They can only stand at the school gate to drop off or pick up their children. Watching as Muxian and my silhouettes gradually faded past the gate, Pei Shuero still couldn't help but feel a sense of anxiety in her heart. Father Mu gently put his arm around her shoulder and spoke soft words of comfort. "Stop worrying, dear. Xiao Chen is an incredibly smart boy. I'm sure nothing will happen to him. Besides, our son isn't the type of person who is easily bullied by others." Pei Shuero just gave him an indifferent glance, not even bothering to waste words explaining further. "It's exactly because I understand his temperament too well that I'm so worried. What if a conflict or argument breaks out with someone?" I walked into the school, my eyes unable to hide their curiosity, carefully scanning every corner of my new school. Children of this era truly live in luxury. Even boys can go to school together to learn like this, and only for a very small cost. Moreover, the learning environment is incredibly spacious and bright. The floors are level and spotless. In summer, there's no need to fear the sweltering heat, and in winter, there's no need to worry about the freezing cold. It's nothing like what children faced in the past. Back then, only children of the high nobility could enjoy a somewhat better learning environment, while for children of commoners, seeking an education was truly an arduous struggle. Why am I suddenly having these kinds of thoughts? Could it be that I have personally witnessed these things before? I was momentarily confused, doubt rising in my heart, scouring my memory, but I found no matching pieces of recollection. Perhaps it's just something I heard from those souls before. Muxian noticed my wide-eyed, admiring look, and my behavior of looking around restlessly made a surge of extreme contempt well up within him. He lowered his eyes slightly to hide the clear look of disdain. "Xiao Chen, do you know the way to your classroom yet? Do you need me to lead you for a bit?" Muxian stood in front of the teaching building and asked. I gave him a cold glance. "No need." Muxian gave a faint, slight smile. "Then find your own way. Your classroom is right on the upper floor here. It's very easy to find. Not difficult at all. If you can't find it, just look for a teacher and ask for directions." Muxian felt truly fortunate that I returned, right as the winter break was about to start, which helped him avoid the prying, suspicious looks from those around him. Thinking of that, Muxian breathed a sigh of relief. Then he turned and walked in one direction, while I set off in the opposite direction. I stood quietly in front of the back door of Class 12F, looking up briefly at the classroom sign, making sure I hadn't come to the wrong place. Then, I suddenly fell into a strange silence. No wonder when he heard I wanted to enter Class 12F, my father's face showed such a complex and indescribable expression. "You must be the new transfer student, right? Your name is Mu Chen, is that correct?" The homeroom teacher of Class 12F was rushing over, noticing a male student waiting at the back door of the classroom. He suddenly paused for a beat, then he also remembered this matter. I quickly turned around, watching that teacher very carefully with a focused gaze. After confirming the identity of the person in front of me, I immediately stood straight and bowed politely. "Greetings, teacher." The teacher was stunned by my action for a moment. Why so serious? Even bowing to me. "Mu Chen, I am your homeroom teacher. My surname is Liu. Everyone usually calls me Dai Liu. You can call me that too. If you have any difficulties in the future, just come to me." I shook my head slightly and said with a very solemn and upright face, "You are a teacher, so naturally you should be respected. How could I call you Dai Liu? Respecting teachers and their teachings is the most basic quality." Dai Liu was suddenly a bit moved. In all his years as a teacher, this was the first time his heart felt such a stir. But that emotion was only fleeting. Dai Liu quickly regained his composure. "It's almost time for class. Come inside with me." Dai Liu strode into the classroom. But the students in class didn't seem to see him. Everyone was doing their own thing, paying no attention. Noisy chatter was everywhere. Clearly, Dai Liu was all too used to this scene. "Everyone, be quiet. Class is starting. Let me introduce a new classmate." Dai Liu had to shout loudly. The noise in the class suddenly stopped. Everyone's eyes swiveled toward this direction simultaneously. They were sizing me up as I stood on the podium. "Oh, a new student at this time? That's quite surprising. This handsome guy looks pretty good. Truly a handsome man." Dai Liu heard the whispering below, feeling a bit embarrassed. He cleared his throat and told me gently, "Mu Chen, please introduce yourself first." I nodded with a calm expression, looking down at the crowd below. "I am Mu Chen. Young Master Mu, is that it?" I glanced at him puzzled. "Otherwise, what else do you want?" This self-introduction was simply too brief. After the introduction, next was the seating arrangement. Dai Liu was still considering where I should sit. I scanned the room once myself, then walked straight toward a certain seat. Seeing me sit down, Dai Liu and the classmates were all agape, their faces showing clear shock and amazement. Besides amazement, the classmates seemed to also carry a hint of anticipation to see a good show. "Who gave you permission to sit here?" I turned to look at my new seatmate. "I'm not allowed to sit?" "No, I don't want to sit with anyone," Lu Quping said with a dark face. If it weren't for the fact that he's a boy, she would have kicked him away already. Who gave him the nerve to sit next to her? I withdrew my gaze and gave a flat, "Oh, then you should move." Lu Quping and the whole class were stunned. After regaining her senses, she was so angry she laughed, pointing at herself. "Do you know who I am?" "I don't." She didn't introduce herself. "How would I know who she is? You don't know who I am and yet you dare talk like that? Don't think that just because you're a boy, I won't hit you." I finally spared her a glance. "You want to hit me? Leave now or I'll give you a beating." I thought for a moment and spoke seriously. "Then let's have a fight. Let's duel each other. If I win, you must listen to me from now on. If I lose, you'll listen to you. How about it?" The whole classroom suddenly went silent. Then everyone burst into mocking laughter. "Oh my god, that's hilarious. He said he wants to fight Lu Quping. He probably doesn't know how powerful our Sister Ping is yet." "Sister Ping, teach him a lesson." Lu Quping curled her lip in disdain. "I've never bothered with boys. You can't even handle one of my fingers." I smiled faintly. "I think it's more like you're afraid to fight. Afraid you'll lose." Lu Quping jumped out of her seat like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. "Me? Lose? That's truly ridiculous. Fine. Since you don't know your place, you'll grant your wish." I saw that he was handsome and intended to be generous and not hold this against him, but he doesn't know how to appreciate it. Her eyes were full of disgust as she looked at me, certain I was just like the other boys who crowded around her. Then it's decided. I leisurely laid out my books, sitting in an extremely disciplined posture, signaling that class was about to begin. "Xiaoxuan, why didn't your younger brother come with you? Didn't your parents let him study in the same class?" After Mu Xuan sat down properly, his close friends crowded around to ask. Mu Xuan pursed his lips and replied, "Xiao Chen is in class AF." "What, class F? Does that mean his grades are terrible?" "Didn't you say your parents love him very much? Why would they let him enter class F? Class F is just for kids who mess around all day. They're all waiting to go abroad after graduation. Most of them are the youngest or unloved, with no need to worry about inheriting the family business, just taking money and living for pleasure. So no one cares about grades, and no one bothers to look at them. As long as they don't cause trouble at school, no one manages them. The Mu family put him in class F. It seems they don't love him that much, do they?" "That's true. Even if he's the biological son, he's been away for over 10 years. Who knows what his personality is like? How could he compare to Xiaoxuan, who was raised carefully? It seems Xiaoxuan is still the true young master of the Mu family." Mu Xuan hesitated for a bit. "It's because Xiao Chen didn't do well on the exam, didn't he mention it? Initially, Father Mu planned to use connections to move me to Class A, but I firmly refused. Father Mu is someone who spoils his children. Naturally, he wouldn't force his son, so he ended up in Class F." Mu Xuan's friend curled his lip. Only able to enter Class F. That's really bad. Our Xiao Xuan is first in Class A. This gap is truly massive. Mu Xuan continued to explain. Xiao Chen didn't want it to be this way either. He used to live in a temple. He hasn't even attended a formal school. Getting into Class F is already quite good. As long as he studies hard, he can still transfer to another class. But it's already the second semester. Where can he transfer now? Hell, just changed schools after the college entrance exam. You said he lived in a temple? For real? Hearing this juicy news, even more classmates gathered to gossip. There's nothing to talk about. Class is about to start. Everyone please go back to your seats. Mu Xuan pushed the friends next to him, urging them to return to their seats. But the less he spoke in detail, the more curious everyone became, forced to speculate secretly. Mu Xuan sat in his place, lowering his eyes as he flipped his book open, still as silent and well-behaved as ever. Except he suddenly turned his head to look at a certain spot, where a familiar person should have been sitting, but that place was now empty. The person who once sat there was gone. Thinking of Zhang Yan, his eyes darkened. His gaze accidentally brushed past a certain spot as if pricked by a needle. He quickly withdrew his gaze, not daring to look one more time. That was Wen Yimo's seat. After the incident happened, everything changed. Normally, the classes coexisted peacefully, no one interfered with each other, but they always looked at each other with little favor. Class F was at the bottom of the contempt chain. The top classes didn't even bother to socialize with them. But today was different. As soon as school was over, a student ran out, then immediately rushed back, shouting excitedly, Hot news! Hot news! The people of Class F are about to fight! Are you crazy? What's so strange about Class F fighting? It would be strange if they didn't fight every day. No. That student stomped repeatedly, looking at Mu Xuan with a meaningful gaze. Mu Xuan was stared at until he was completely confused. That friend deliberately played mysterious. Do you know who's about to fight Lu Quping? The gaze once again landed on Mu Xuan. With such clear implication, those around couldn't ignore it if they wanted to. Mu Xuan's face stiffened, and everyone looked at each other. A close friend asked, Do you mean Xiao Xuan's younger brother is fighting Lu Quping? No way! Who is Lu Quping? Don't just talk about the 12th grade, but this whole school. She's a figure everyone knows, notorious since middle school, though in a negative sense. Exactly. It's Mu Chen. This was said by someone in Class F, and they said Mu Chen took the initiative to provoke her, arranging to meet at the small grove behind the school after class. After saying that, the friend giggled at Mu Xuan. Mu Xuan, your younger brother is truly a character. To dare challenge Lu Quping, does he know martial arts? He must be quite formidable, right? Confirming that the classmate wasn't joking, Mu Xuan suddenly stood up and went outside, both angry and anxious. Is Mu Chen crazy? He dares to mess with anyone. Does he think the school is the Mu household, that everyone must yield to him, letting him do whatever he wants? He angrily went to look for Mu Chen in Class F, but stopped halfway. He bit his lip hard, hands clenched into fists, eyes wavering uncertainly. If he could stop it, that would be good, avoiding trouble, so his parents wouldn't scold him. But if he didn't stop him, and he really fought Lu Quping, then no matter what, he would bring trouble upon himself. He hadn't interacted much with Lu Quping, but he'd heard many rumors, knowing the Lu family wasn't ordinary. If Mu Chen angered her, he gritted his teeth and turned back. Whatever, forget it, I don't care anymore. Even if I try to advise him, he won't listen. I might even hear unpleasant things, making me lose face too. Didn't they say they'd fight after school? I'll wait until after school to advise him then. If he won't listen, he'll call eldest sister. That way parents won't blame me either. Throughout the morning, the atmosphere in Class F was extremely electric. Dai Liu had heard the conversation between the two, but he basically didn't take it to heart. When school ended, he even gave a few reminders. Tell Quping not to bother with the boy, it'll hurt her image. After reminding them, he left. He had some understanding of Lu Quping, thinking she wouldn't take her anger out on a new student. But he didn't expect me to be no pushover either. So as soon as school ended, the whole of Class F aggressively headed straight for the small grove behind the school. I glanced at the classmates following along, my eyes stopping on Lu Quping. I was thinking whether I should warn her a bit, to let the unrelated people leave first. Otherwise I'm afraid she'll lose a lot of face later. Saving face is only natural. This happened frequently in Wangzi Cheng. When they couldn't win, they'd cry to me for justice. What kind of justice? If your skills are inferior, you just have to accept it. Later, no one dared to bring those trivial matters to bother me again. I managed so many things for my sister, I didn't have time to care about these petty things. Lu Quping felt there was something wrong with my eyes, but she had no evidence. How do you want to fight? Well, we haven't started yet. As long as you apologize sincerely, this matter will be dropped and you'll be generous enough not to hold it against you, Lu Quping said arrogantly. Fighting with a boy is really embarrassing. Even winning would likely lead to mockery. But just letting it go wasn't an option either. Where would her pride go? So he definitely had to apologize and admit fault. Whatever style you're good at, fight that way. Stop talking nonsense. Let's just start. I need to go home early. The Mu family's driver is probably here. Lu Quping was so angry she laughed. Fine, since you've come looking for a beating, then I don't need to be polite anymore. It was rare for her to show some grace, and as a result, he didn't appreciate it at all. Mu Yuwei left as soon as school ended, and the classmates thought he went to stop them. He did go to the small grove, but only took one look from afar before turning around heading straight for the school gate. Upon reaching the gate, he quickly saw the Mu family's car. The person stepping out of the driver's seat was eldest sister Mu Yuwei. His eyes lit up and he strode over, speaking hurriedly. Eldest sister, you've arrived just in time. Xiaochen is about to fight someone. Hurry and stop him. Mu Yuwei was completely bewildered, thinking she had misheard. Fighting? You said Xiaochen wants to fight someone? Mu Yuwei looked very worried and anxious. I don't know why, but right after arriving at school, he had a conflict with some bullies in class, and even made an appointment to fight in the grove after school. I tried to advise him, but he wouldn't listen, sister. Hurry and go see. What if he gets beaten up if we're a bit late? Mu Yuwei became anxious upon hearing this, and without asking more, she rushed into the school. The security guard tried to stop her, but she showed her ID, saying a younger sibling was in trouble, so the guard didn't dare block her further, letting her in. Mu Yuwei hurriedly led eldest sister to the small grove. None of his expressions showed any flaws, but in the depths of his eyes, anticipation occasionally flashed. Mu Yuwei was too worried about her brother to notice, and both of them rushed to the edge of the grove. But the scene before them left both of them stunned, and then they fell into silence. Especially Mu Yuwei, who was now starting to doubt her life. She had expected to see her brother being bullied. Why did you come into the school? It's not early anymore. Let's go home. It took a long time for Mu Yuwei to regain her senses. Seeing that I had already walked several meters away, she quickly chased after me. Not until they were back in the car did she find her logic in her voice. Her gaze was extremely complex, looking at me with an expression that was hard to describe. I looked at her and told the truth. Oh, I just had a fight with someone and I won. There's no need to tell our parents about this minor thing to avoid worrying them. What do you think? She felt something was wrong with this. How could he go and fight someone? And why did he win? Had he practiced martial arts before? Besides this reason, she couldn't think of any other. Well, I have practiced before, and I'm quite good at it. In Wangzi Cheng, but besides my sister, I'm the most powerful one. Mu Yuwei looked at me and fell into silence. At this time, Mu Yuwei finally caught up, opening the car door and climbing into the back seat. He was panting heavily, and before he could catch his breath, I threw a sentence at him. I don't want parents to know about today, to avoid worrying them. What do you think? Mu Yuwei met my cold gaze, and couldn't help but feel suffocated for a moment. He instinctively looked at Mu Yuwei, who was still immersed in shock, completely ignoring his gaze, without any reaction at all. Mu Yuwei had to aggrievedly and unwillingly lower his eyes. I understand. MC Komnyakchi Neve Bamedo. Xiaochen had never mentioned knowing martial arts. On the way, Mu Yuwei couldn't help but ask. Nobody asked. I replied quite confidently. Mu Yuwei was suddenly speechless. Thinking for a while, a sense of guilt rose in her heart. After Xiaochen came home, the family's concern wasn't enough, never proactively asking or trying to understand him, even worrying that Xiaoshuan would be mistreated. Fearing that being raised outside would give him a wild temperament, not knowing how to behave gracefully and delicately, and even less knowing how to care for and understand family, fearing the family would be turned upside down. But he is a biological brother, a brother born from the same mother. They only knew he grew up in a temple, but didn't care at all how he grew up, or what kind of days he had to go through. For months after his master passed away, how had he survived on his own? Had something bad happened? That's why he learned self-defense skills before coming home. Pei Shuuru immediately asked about school life today. She asked very meticulously. I answered without revealing any flaws. How could she suspect her well-behaved son of fighting? Hearing that everything was fine, she was relieved. Mu Yuwei planned to expose this, but he didn't dare take that risk, and finally told himself to let it go, saying it might not even get him punished, and would only give himself a bad reputation, so why do it? Thinking this made him feel a bit better. Recently there might be guests coming to the house. Shueru, please arrange things. At the dinner table, Father Mu suddenly remembered and said, Pei Shueru was a bit surprised. Guests coming to the house? Why didn't she know about this? Father Mu frowned slightly, seemingly also finding it a bit confusing. It's the old madame of the Di Wu family from the capital. What? Old madame of the Di Wu family? Pei Shueru was truly shocked this time. There had never been any relationship or interaction. Why would the old madame come as a guest? Father Mu thought for a moment before answering. It's not exactly coming as a guest. The old madame is coming to Haicheng for some business, but she doesn't want to stay in a hotel, and the Daiwu family doesn't have a house here. Eldest sister knew about it and told us to host her. How could eldest sister be like that? Not even asking for our opinion. One doesn't even need to think to know what she's plotting. Although the Daiwu family in the capital isn't at the top, and their reputation isn't ranked highly, that doesn't affect their status and influence at all. The Daiwu family doesn't follow politics or business. They rely on deduction, fortune-telling, and changing fate. Legend has it, their ancestor predicted a national disaster, thereby turning the fate of the entire country, and that's how we have the empire today. Because they revealed heavenly secrets, their ancestor suffered a tragic death, and though the Daewoo family consolidated their position, with their prestige and power reaching a peak, everything that has an advantage also has a disadvantage. Once the fate of a nation has been changed, how can it be compared to a single life? Since then, the descendants of the Daewoo family have become increasingly sparse, from a powerful great clan to only 2 branches, with a total of only 3 descendants, 2 males and 1 female. The direct lineage has only 1 person left. The worst thing is that precious pearl of the direct line. Something happened a few years ago, and he's reportedly become a vegetable, likely to pass away at any moment. With sparse descendants, their power is also declining daily. Rumor has it, the direct line doesn't even know what the I Ching is. A legendary family falling into this situation, it truly makes people sigh with pity. But no one dares to look down on the Daewoo family, because they are a family protected by the high-level classes. The person lying there grew up in the head of state's mansion. The supreme leader treats him like his own son, willing to pay any price to cure him, even offering a grand reward to whoever can heal him. So no matter how the Daewoo family declines, they remain a force others must look up to. Moreover, a thin camel is still bigger than a horse. A declining noble family still has its foundation. My sister-in-law wants to gain something from this, but what does that have to do with our family? The old madame is advanced in age. What if something happens? Who will take responsibility then? If we host her well, my sister-in-law gets the benefits, while we here in Haicheng gain nothing at all. It's truly a thankless and tiring job. Father Mu just had to look at his wife's face, and he knew exactly what she was thinking. He didn't want to get involved in this either. His attitude of leaving the capital to live on his own was very clear. He didn't have any great ambitions, just trying to provide a good life for his wife and children, not worrying about food and clothes, with plenty of money to spend. His wife wanted to be a wealthy lady and do beauty treatments. Whether you want to travel abroad or see fashion shows, anything is fine. The children will have access to the best education. As a father, I can't look after them forever. If they lack ability later on, they can just live an ordinary life. I won't work myself to death like a slave for them. As for my son, Xiao Chen, I must take care of him for the rest of his life. He's suffered way too much in the first half of his life. I must make it up to him in the second half. I thought connecting with the Daewoo family was a good idea, to build a solid relationship and find him a good marriage match later on. Nung truk mat lu tre, thi kom te nai ra. Don't overthink it. Even if we agree, they might not necessarily come. If we really can host them, it's a good thing. One more connection is never a mistake. Pei Shueru could only nod. The capital side already had that intention. If we didn't agree, the eldest aunt would get grandma involved. The Mu family kids all seemed interested, except for me, who didn't even bother to look up, solely focused on eating dinner, as if I was facing a world-class delicacy. Master Mu saw this and felt full of worry. Xiao Chen was raised way too simply. I don't know if this is a good or bad thing. If he doesn't find someone who truly loves him later, he'll be eaten alive if he marries into a wealthy family. But if he marries an ordinary person, I can bear to let him suffer. He wanted his wife to teach him more in the future. This society is too complex. Being too simple isn't good either. While Master Mu was lost in his stray thoughts, I swallowed the last bite, finishing dinner with complete satisfaction. Looking up, I caught my old man's complicated gaze. I paused for a moment, wondering if I'd eaten too much, making him worry that I'd overeat myself to death. Surely he's not worried I'll eat him out of house and home. I had no idea he was worrying about my marriage. The moment I stepped into Class F at school, the noisy classroom was like someone hit the mute button. Everyone shut their mouths. They looked like they were busy with their own things, but they'd occasionally steal glances at me, with extremely weird looks in their eyes. I walked straight to my seat without looking left or right. Lu Qiuping nearby looked grim. Hey, why aren't you saying anything? You must be waiting for me to humiliate you. I've been waiting, but there's no movement. I took out my textbook and started reading. Only then could he not help but speak up. Just say it. What on earth do you want? I gave him a strange look. Lu Qiuping slammed his hand on the desk and stood up abruptly, glaring at me angrily. Are you messing with me? The whole class was terrifyingly silent. Everyone around backed away, creating an empty space. I blinked innocently. Oh, you mean the fight from yesterday? Didn't you already lose? Now that I'm your boss, you dare to treat me like this? I frowned deeply, feeling it was necessary to establish my authority. I got up from my seat and walked to the podium, my gaze sweeping across every member of the class, cold and overpowering. From now on, I am the boss of Class F. If anyone's not convinced, feel free to challenge me. You must listen to me from now on, got it? Even though I defeated Lu Qiuping, the rest of Class F still didn't really respect me. A newly transferred student, and a guy at that? What right does he have to be the boss? Even if Lu Qiuping lost, there are still others. Make them listen to a weak-looking guy? Don't think just because you beat Sister Ping it's over. Who knows if you just got lucky or used some dirty tricks. Don't be too arrogant just because you're new. Exactly. We only acknowledge Sister Ping. I raised an eyebrow slightly. You acknowledge Lu Qiuping, and Lu Qiuping has to submit to me, so the result is the same. Is this Mu Chen guy's brain broken? I didn't bother talking nonsense with the others, my eyes fixed on Lu Qiuping. Are you convinced by yesterday's result? If not, there's nothing I can do because a shameless person is truly invincible. Of course I admit defeat. What kind of green tea act is this? He was so irritated he laughed, eyes staring aggressively at me. Through gritted teeth he forced out, I submit. A gentleman's revenge is never too late. He was certain yesterday was just an accident and that I must have used some trick to win. He hadn't even seen me make a move before he was already knocked out on the ground. He thought he'd been in enough real fights, so how could he not last a single move? It was simply unbelievable. I gave him a disdainful look. Do you think I'm that desperate for this boss title? I couldn't care less. You think being the boss is easy? Honestly, it's like being a nanny, and an unpaid one at that. In Wang Ziqing, I already had a hard life. I didn't expect to still be slaving away in the human world, but for the sake of merit, what choice do I have? Joining Class F was truly an accident. I had originally agreed to join Class A, but while passing through the corridor, I noticed something strange. Two currents of energy were swirling in the air, one black and one purple, two tiny wisps intertwining. The purple energy was losing, soon to be crushed by the black one. Purple energy means a noble person is present, but it was accompanied by black killing intent. The situation didn't look good. I suddenly got interested. Helping a noble person remove killing intent to gain merit. After finding out Class F was below, it proved the noble person was in Class F, so of course I couldn't ignore it. I had to check it out. That's why I joined Class F. Lu Qiuping was that both lucky and unlucky noble person. Lu Qiuping, don't look at me like that. Are the Diwu family really coming to our house? The matter was brought up again at the dinner table, not for discussion, but for announcement. The Diwu family members are arriving soon. Mu Ruolan and Mu Yaqin felt the adults would handle it, so they didn't need to worry too much. They were quite open-minded about it. Mu Xuan lowered his eyes slightly. His mind was racing. I was the only one ignoring the outside world, completely focused on shoveling rice and grabbing food. Pei Shure's heart suddenly felt complicated. With such a simple personality, what will he do later? He doesn't care at all about such a big matter. He's far too carefree. What do you think of this, Xiao Chen? Pei Shuero suddenly asked. While enjoying the delicacy, I was startled. In a blink, I saw everyone staring at me, as if waiting for my opinion. I had to put down my chopsticks, swallowed my food, and thought for a second. Since they want to come anyway, let's just host them well. Just treat them like normal guests. Hearing this, Mu Xuan couldn't help but speak up in opposition. That's the Diwu family we're talking about. How can we treat them like normal guests? If they wanted to be served like VIPs, there are plenty of people who could do that. They could enjoy top-tier service at a hotel, but they didn't. Instead, they chose to come to our house because they don't want people walking on eggshells around them. Not everyone likes being flattered. Master Mu frowned slightly, looking deep in thought. Soon after, his brow cleared and he smiled. Xiao Chen has a point. The Diwu family isn't the type to show off if they've come to our house. Proper etiquette is enough. Making a big fuss would just look like flattery. Pei Shuero also understood. Xiao Chen is right. The old madam is very humble. People in the capital rarely see her in public. She's someone who dislikes noise and ostentation. Just treating her like a normal guest is fine, otherwise, wouldn't she have plenty of better places to stay? Master Mu pondered for a moment and said, then it's decided. Actually, he also felt it was a bit strange. Why not visit other familiar families as a guest, but instead chose the Mu family? He asked his eldest sister in the capital and got scolded. She said if this great opportunity fell to others, they'd surely grab it and exploit it fully. Yet he only wanted to push it away. Why investigate so thoroughly? What could the Diwu family possibly plot against us? Even if I gave them this business for free, they wouldn't even want it. He hung up immediately then. The Diwu family would never plot against the Mu family. What will be. As long as we don't offend the Diwu family, he didn't care about any profit. The eldest aunt can just plot by herself. The arrangements to host the old madam were finalized. Mu Xuan was stunned to see both parents agree. He didn't know what to say. If this isn't acting recklessly, what is? This will only make us a laughingstock. This is clearly playing with our future and reputation. He intended to say a few more things but then swallowed them back. Never mind. When the Diwu family members move in, he'll deal with it then. He resolved to look out for himself first. As for me, I didn't care about the upcoming guest. That old lady has nothing to do with me since I'm not the one hosting her. Better to spend time thinking of how to win over Lu Qiuping. Over half a month has passed since school started. I've adapted very well to life here. I feel that kids today are truly too happy. Even boys can go to school to study if they have the ability. They can keep studying forever. This is truly a wonderful thing. I definitely never experienced this before. Those in Class F saw me acting like the boss, yet being very serious in class, obedient and not mischievous at all, and diligently reviewing and doing homework after school, looking just like a top student. We're Class F, not Class A. Sister Ping, are we really just going to let this happen? Does he want to turn us into a second-class A? Jining Shuang wailed in despair. Mu Chen is getting more and more out of line. It's fine if he wants to be a good student himself, but he's forcing everyone to follow suit. No messing around during lectures, no skipping classes, and no failing to do homework. His ultimate move is that he occasionally even does surprise quizzes, and whoever can't answer is punished immediately, punished until they fully understand. He's not even a student. He's probably a homeroom teacher in disguise. Even Teacher Lu isn't as dedicated as he is. Has he gone completely crazy? Lu Quping's mouth twitched whenever he thought about this. From the start, I provoked and defeated him, crushing all resistance in Class F. I thought he'd do something world-shaking. Who knew he'd turn out to be a total goody two-shoes? Lu Quping was also feeling extremely frustrated. What can be done if we can't even beat him in a fight? Remembering that weird incident last time, he couldn't accept the fact that he lost a fight to a boy, wanting to reclaim his reputation but fearing losing face if he lost again. He needed to be absolutely certain of everything, feeling that Mu Chen is truly not simple at all. Let's put this aside for now. I have to go back to the capital for a bit. Wait until I get back to deal with this. Lu Quping frowned, his voice full of agitation, radiating an unconcealed annoyance. Jining Shuang secretly took a cold breath. She didn't dare say another word. Those close to Sister Ping understand well that she deeply loathes and rejects going back to the capital. Every time she has to go, her mood becomes extremely bad, gloomy, suppressed, and prone to violence, so no one is stupid enough to poke that hornet's nest. Lai Qingqiu patted Sister Ping's shoulder. If something's wrong, just say it. Don't carry it all alone. Jining Shuang also hurriedly chimed in. Sister Ping, we're good sisters. Lu Quping gave a cold laugh, glancing sideways at the two of them. It's just the capital. It's not like him walking into fire, so don't worry. The two looked at each other without a word. They were just still afraid of what happened when she went back the year before last. Back then she didn't care, but she returned with half her life gone, her body covered in wounds, under her clothes. Not a single spot was unscathed, red and swollen with purple bruises, feeling like her blood vessels could burst at any moment. She'd tremble at the slightest touch, needing over a month of rest to recover her familiar look, as if nothing had ever happened. If questioned, she would become very strange, her cold eyes staring in a way that made one's hair stand on end, so no one dared to ask more. That incident had become a psychological trauma. Knowing that everyone was worried about her, Lu Quping smiled slightly, a bit of warmth appearing in her eyes. All right, stop being so sentimental like little girls. I'll know how to protect myself. I'm not a kid anymore. I'll know how to fight back. On the third day, I noticed Lu Quping wasn't there. I thought she was just late, but it turns out she actually skipped class. I beckoned Jining Shuang to come closer, a gesture no different from calling a puppy. Jining Shuang originally intended to ignore it, pretending she saw nothing at all, but suddenly she felt a chill all over, as if surrounded by a wave of cold air, making her cold enough to shiver. She reflexively turned her head back, seeing me staring at her with a smile, but with a bone-chilling coldness in my eyes. She shivered again, thinking it was best to go over, otherwise, who knows what the consequences would be. It definitely wouldn't be anything she'd want. She grumpily asked in an unfriendly tone, "What is it? Where's Lu Quping?" She planned to talk back, but catching those dark eyes, she suddenly deflated. Sister Ping took leave. She's not in today. I rubbed my chin and thought, took leave? This doesn't seem right at all. Her fortune is very bad. There's a sign of impending disaster. It will harm her. Her spirit is also unstable. The killing intent has started to overwhelm the purple energy. This is absolutely not a good sign. Where did she go on leave for? What is she off to do? Jining Shuang blew up hearing this interrogating tone. Why are you acting like you're interrogating a criminal? Even if you claim to be the boss of Class F, you have no right to treat us like prisoners. I looked at Jining Shuang with a puzzled face. This name, I really don't know what to say about it. By the third day, I had also taken leave from school. The Mu family decided to treat the guest as normally as possible, though minimum social etiquette still had to be performed correctly. Master Mu made a decisive gesture. The whole family joined in. Everyone took leave to prepare for the VIP guest at home. I didn't have any objections. If they said take leave, I'd take leave. Unexpectedly, things in Class F had completely turned upside down. Thinking about how they laughed at me yesterday, after Pulei left, I also brushed the matter aside. They treated my words like wind blowing past their ears. Still going to school, leaving after and going home, everything happening just like any other day. Pulei went to bed early in a pretty good mood, then something unimaginable happened. Upon waking up and trying to find things and call the maid, he suddenly realized he couldn't utter a word, thinking it was because he wasn't fully awake yet. He tried his best to scream loudly. His expression suddenly changed completely. Still, absolutely no sound came out. As if in a dream, he reached up to touch his throat, opening his mouth to scream but failing. Then he dashed outside. The whole Piu family was in a frenzy. They didn't link it to yesterday, thinking he was struck by a severe illness. Every part of the larynx was functioning normally, yet he still couldn't speak. Opening his mouth only resulted in silence. The doctor concluded it was a psychological issue, but his life had been smooth lately, with no traumatic events. The doctor advised going home for more rest, trying to adjust his mood to be comfortable, thinking maybe it would resolve itself in a few hours, so they just followed the doctor's orders. Class F was currently buzzing with excitement. Something happened to Pu Lei's group. Someone deliberately lowered their voice mysteriously. Jining Shuang overheard it with her sharp ears. She quickly asked what on earth had happened. The classmate sitting next to her poured out a stream of gossip. Sister Ning, my house is near the Pu families. When my maid was walking the dog, she heard rumors that Pu Lei turned mute this morning. Everyone around looked skeptical. Must be fake news. How can someone just go mute out of nowhere? He was still talking normally on voice messages last night. It's true. The maids from the same hometown are gossiping about it. They went to the hospital and couldn't find a cause. They say it's all psychological. And it's not just him, but several others in his close circle. They all took leave today with the exact same condition. The whole group suddenly went silent, looking at each other in total confusion, not knowing whether to believe it or not. This is truly beyond imagination. None of them linked it to yesterday's events. Only Jining Shuang and Lai Qingqiu suddenly felt fear in their hearts. They suddenly remembered what I had said yesterday. Your punishment is that you won't be able to speak for 3 days. Jining Shuang shivered, getting goosebumps all over. She felt a wave of coldness. It was truly too eerie. King Q, do you think this has something to do with Mu Chen? This can't help but make one suspicious. He just said it yesterday, and today it actually happened, exactly like the punishment he declared. Could there really be such an unbelievable coincidence in this world? Lai Qingqiu frowned slightly in thought, taking a deep breath to regain her composure. Whether this is just a coincidence or there's a real reason, it's best we don't dare offend him from now on. This person is truly too deep and unpredictable. If he really had a hand in this, our end might be much more tragic than this. Jining Shuang nodded frantically in fear. She was thinking the exact same thing. From that day forward, the classroom atmosphere completely changed. No one dared to be loud or play around anymore. Everyone obediently followed my instructions and focused on reading. I was very satisfied to witness this positive change. As long as they stopped causing trouble, I wouldn't bother wasting effort using tricks to deal with them. The following days passed very peacefully. However, the debates on social media became more intense than ever. Wen Yimo's parents provided concrete evidence and handed it all directly to the police to handle. The police immediately stepped in to investigate and gather evidence. The truth about the incident at the mall years ago was finally brought to light. Zhang Yan, along with several other involved classmates, all received school-wide disciplinary warnings from the school and were also forced to withdraw from school immediately. Everything finally could no longer be hidden. Mu Xuan felt restless at home, living in a state of anxiety and fear all day long, his mind always in a daze, not lucid. When the Mu family watched the released news reports and learned that Zhang Yan was directly involved in that murder case, everyone couldn't help but feel shocked and terrified. Pei Shuero stared at Mu Xuan and asked, "Xiao Xuan, answer me honestly. Did you participate in the terrible things Zhang Yan did?" Mu Xuan was so scared his face turned as white as paper. He collapsed, kneeling on the ground with a thud. "Mom, I really didn't participate in harming anyone. I was just standing nearby witnessing everything then. At that time, I truly didn't have the courage to stand up and stop them. I've truly realized my huge mistake now." Master Mu and the sisters, after hearing that confession, only had sheer disappointment left in their eyes. Although it was said he didn't personally push anyone, however, standing by coldly and the act of covering up were also heinous crimes that could never be forgiven. Master Mu's face hardened as he immediately made his final decision. "Our Mu family really doesn't have the fortune to house such a great Buddha like you. They'll send you an amount for living expenses. After that, pack your things and go take care of your own life. From now on, work for your own food and carry your own burdens." Mu Xuan sobbed and begged everyone for mercy, but this time no one was moved to stand up and cover for him. Even Mu Yuwei turned her head away and ignored him. Although she isn't usually the brightest or sharpest, she can still clearly distinguish between right and wrong. Mu Xuan was eventually kicked straight out of the Mu family house. The businesses of those people's families were also strongly boycotted by everyone, resulting in bankruptcies or forced closures one by one. By this time, they had received their well-deserved retribution. Wen Yimo stood in the room glancing up at me. Her eyes no longer showed any trace of resentment. "I truly thank you for standing up to demand justice for me. Seeing them receive their proper punishments with my own eyes, I can finally feel at peace and leave now." I gave a slight smile and nodded in agreement. Go reincarnate to start a new life. I believe that in the next life you'll surely have a peaceful and smooth journey." She turned into countless sparkling spots of starlight and gradually faded away. A surge of pure merit suddenly flooded into my body. I could feel my inner power becoming more abundant than ever. My daily life once again returned to its inherent tranquility. I've become a solid spiritual pillar for this entire Class F. Under my guidance, the whole class achieved a spectacular turnaround. Lu Quping finally gave up her old delinquent ways. She worked her hardest and got into a fairly prestigious university. I myself am fully enjoying the warm family affection at the Mu home. My parents and sisters all love and pamper me to the fullest. Although my sharp tongue and habit of trolling others haven't changed, they all understand that deep down, I have a very kind heart, so everyone is always tolerant of my childish personality traits. Life in this human world is truly something wonderful. As for my identity as the young master of Wang Zicheng, let's just wait until I've fully experienced this human life, then I'll return to take over those unfinished tasks.